Right, so gotta be careful here because don't want to actually don't technically want to get banned, but I'm gonna try and be as careful as I can with it. I just have to meet this shit. I thought it'd be a good stream actually because there's interesting points that have just been made. I was like, oh god, I should probably put it here. You know it. I mean, it's been on for a while, but it's this bit here, this question, which I think's a good point.
How do you think that this reshuffle is another step on the way to a Labour victory, or do you think that it's not sufficiently radical and Keir Starmer is showing all the signs of being far too conservative with the small c?
So I don't belong to any political party, so this isn't a party political broadcast. But I do think that at some point you have to decide, how do we get into power first? And how inclusive can you be if you want to get into power? And I think leadership, the way you show leadership in any political party, is not going to be totally inclusive. You will have to have people who buy into your vision. And in that context, there will be people who will be left behind. I also wonder what people mean when they say you have to be radical, because I think most people in the UK, and this is a massive generalisation I'm making, are in the centre of politics, whether they belong to a political party or not. And what they want is effective government. They're tired of the left and the right debates. They're tired of binary politics. They want politics that means something. They want politicians who will actually deliver. And they want politics to be, because ultimately politics is about people.
Don't they also want a choice, though?
Just be very aware what he says next in this thing. It's I think it's very interesting what he says next. Very interesting. Watch how he frames this. You ready for this one?
No.
But they do have a choice. They
have a choice between two political parties, but when Jeremy was leader of the Labour Party, there was a genuine choice between his form of socialism.
Okay. Socialism. I like the way he pointed out an economic ideological point of view there, right? So he's literally said, Jeremy Corbyn's version of the country is socialism, even though that claim is complete bullshit. Literally bullshit. But he's going to say it anyway. And that's how he describes the Tories' economic worldview.
And Boris Johnson's form of conservatism. Nobody could...
So there's no economic model associated with Boris Johnson at all. Just conservatism. Do you see how the media works when you pay a close attention to it? Like, that's really funny, isn't it? Like, you would associate socialism with Jeremy Corbyn, but conservatism, which is what then, in an economic model, and Boris Johnson. He left that out specifically, even though we all know what that's called. Capitalism. Dare I mention that word? So he's going to say Boris Johnson's version of, let's say, liberal free capitalism, whatever the fuck, right? The fact that he obfuscated this fucking entire point from his little weird sentence there as a rebuttal. People have a choice. Socialism or neoliberalism / capitalism that we've had since Thatcher, basically. Hello? You see why people like listen to these fucking videos? They don't get the points that these people make because they're intrinsically fucking biased. They know exactly what they're doing when they're saying this shit, like he just did. Tie socialism to Jeremy Corbyn off the bat, and then let's just say conservatism, which is fucking what exactly? As if Jeremy Corbyn was going to come in and turn us into Venezuela, even though the fucking newspapers basically said we're going to turn into Venezuela, if you read them. But anyway, let's continue with this fucking mad shit. I like LBC because Ian Dale is one of the biggest fucking Tory ass clowns going. Like, literally.
Say that there wasn't a choice there, whereas a lot of my listeners often say to me, well, what's the point in voting, because you've got two political leaders who actually aren't that much different.
But then
between Keir Starmer and the Tories, very correct. Why is that? Because they're both neoliberals, they're both centre, they're not... You see, the thing is, this is the peculiar thing, there is no left in Britain, as one would put it, because the left technically never really existed anyway. The whole socialist movement is fucking whatever. But to be more to the left than, let's say, Tony fucking Blair, you only have to look at Gordon Brown, and he was more to the left than Tony Blair ever was. That's a fact, right? But in terms of how Jeremy Corbyn went about it, he was the left of the party. So you would say, okay, Jeremy Corbyn's the extreme left, right? Or whatever. But in no way does that make Jeremy Corbyn a socialist when it comes to if he was the PM. It's impossible to be a socialist in Britain. There's not, in fact, it's impossible to be a fucking socialist in the world today, technically speaking, unless you are literally a fucking dictator and take over some fucking third world country or some shit and literally implement socialist ideas by force. Otherwise, you're a quasi-capitalist fucking country like the rest of the planet. Even China isn't communist. They're a quasi-communist country. Why? Because they have capitalism. Fucking idiots, wake up to the fucking smell the cheese or the coffee, whatever the fuck it is. Anyway, point being is, the Ask Clannery is funny because he's saying there's no choice, but then on the other hand, he's saying, well, when Jeremy Corbyn was in power, he was a socialist. No, the fucking papers destroyed him is what fucking happened. And called him fucking Mr. fucking Venezuela. They even did it to Ed Miliband. They called Ed Miliband a fucking Troxy or whatever. Fucking redhead, remember? Right? When he was eating a sandwich and all that shit. I mean, you can't make this shit up. It's baffling.
You could also argue, well, how is Keir Starmer in the lead by whatever it is, 20%? Is that because people like the...
No, it's because the Tories are utter shit. I've always said this and I'll keep saying it. You don't win elections in Britain, you lose them. Like, wake up. Like, the only way we get governments in this country is when we literally get so fucking ass clown fucking fed up with them. We don't want to vote for them anymore. That's why Thatcher was in power for so long. And then people finally realised that fuck that, we need to actually vote these twats out. That's the only way we're literally going to get rid of them, is to vote them out. Because they're fucking useless. Tony Blair eventually got it. Well, I wouldn't say Tony Blair. Gordon Brown eventually ran the gauntlet. I mean, he's a stupid cunt anyway, in terms of when he should have just had that election and fucking won it, but he didn't. Fuck knows why. But whatever, anyway, that's past. But still, the point is, in Britain, you normally lose elections, you don't fucking win them. You lose them. Wake up, smell the fucking coffee again.
choices he's made, and does that say something about the political shifts in our own society?
Well, I think it's partly, it's not almost wholly down to the fact that we have such an incompetent government that it's not necessarily an endorsement of Keir Starmer.
That's true, but I don't...
It's not that's what I'm saying, it's not an endorsement, but the facts still remain. Our government is utterly shit. Like the Rivers. You can't make... Like, I literally grew up under Thatcher. You couldn't make this shit up at this point, right? Like, honestly, if you said to me, who would you rather live under, Thatcher or these fucking morons? Give me Thatcher any day of the week. I repent of all my sins. Bring back Thatcher. I'm only kidding, but you get the point. These are way worse than Thatcher because they're incompetent. I mean, Thatcher's government was many things, trust me on that. But the level of retardedness out of this bunch is fucking wow. Like, it's only recently they actually knew how to turn on a computer. And then the entire system, and this is the funny thing, like these fucking boomers literally don't know what the internet is, but yet make people... They inflict harm and pain on people, saying you've got to sign up on Universal Credit online. People like, I can't even afford the fucking internet and you're asking me to go online and shit or whatever, right? They do everything online and they couldn't run a piss up in a beauty. Like, it's fucking amazing. I just learned today after watching a programme that Grant Shapps has had 5 cabinet jobs in a fucking year. 5 of them. Jesus fucking Christ. We'll get back to Labour in a minute, because I'm not saying Labour are perfect, no, but the people who say, oh, well, Labour wouldn't do it, fucking shut up. If you think Labour couldn't do any fucking worse than this bunch, you're living on a fucking another planet.
Think that we should think of, we should kind of preempt that this is a Labour Party victory, that they are certainly, on the road to 10 Downing Street. A lot can happen in a year. And I completely agree with so much what's happened in the last few months where politics has become a shambles. Politics is...
It's been a shambles since Nick Clegg and it's been a shambles since Nick Clegg got into power with the fucking the Tories. That alone should have sent alarm bells ringing through the nation. Because when I was growing up, The Lib Dems would never get in bed with the Tories. The people who used to put flyers through my letterbox saying free the weed, decriminalise ganja, make it legal, all of a sudden in bed with the Tories. You having a fucking laugh? Alarm bells are fucking ringing from then. I knew it was going to be a shit show. It's like, oh fuck, here we go. This is going to get funny.
It's completely reactive. It's constantly firefighting by the present government. But I still think that people do want a choice, I agree. But people also want to know that whoever gets in is going to deliver. I think we put a lot of emphasis on choice. People want choice. We want choice in schools. We want choice in hospitals. I think most of the time we want good, not necessarily choice.
No, we want competence, not fucking good. We expect good. Like, if I fucking apply for a job, I expect that from the person who's applying for the fucking job, or me applying for the job. I expect my employer to think that I'm fucking capable of my job, right? That's good. That's like bog standard. Like, that shouldn't be something that I should thank you for. That's your fucking job. Now get on with it. That's what we expect you to be, fucking competent in your fucking job. Unlike these fucking clowns, apparently.
We want good government, we want good schools, we want good hospitals. And I think in some ways choice is...
And we haven't got any of that. Like, literally, we haven't got any. They put shit in our rivers and the Tories say, oh, we need investment from the very same people who put shit in the river. The very same people. Like, that's like sending a fucking... That's like saying, me house is on fire, and then ringing the fucking arsonists to come and put it out. It makes no sense. This Tory government is done, and has been for a while. They've only been in power because they keep rigging this so-called democracy we live in with their fucking rules of their own party. Well, we can't have a new PM because that goes against the Tory party fucking rules. Really? So you can just get to stay in power like Robert Mugabe while the rest of us have to swim in shit? That sounds great.
Become almost a
third world nation. If this was another country and you were looking at it and reading about it, you'd be like, why haven't we sent in UN peacekeeping troops by now? Like, what the fuck's going on? That's a dictatorship.
a kind of buzzword which hides a lot of other sins.
Which I suspect that word features in your book, Danny Kruger, but we'll come on to that in a bit. Now, just to answer Hassan's question, I mean, when you look at that...
I just got flashbacks of Freddy Krueger there for some fucking reason. Danny Kruger, are you related? Just saying.
Reshuffle that Keir Starmer conducted yesterday was done very competently. It was all over within a couple of hours. Conservative reshuffles in recent years have been slightly more dramatic than that. I think you'll probably agree.
That's because we've lost prime ministers with them reshuffles. Every reshuffle we've had under the Tories has been because the prime minister got fucking sacked. That's why.
But what
Just pointing out the fucking facts here.
did that tell you about where Labour is and where they're going?
Well, I've some respect for Keir's decision to move his shadow cabinet so decisively back towards the Blairite centre that Jeremy describes. I regret some of the good people who've gone, not particularly because they're on the left, just because they're interesting. So I think Lisa Nandy was my favourite member of the shadow cabinet. She's demoted to a non-existent brief. So that reflects Keir's attitude to her, and I regret it because I think she's good and clever. She stands in that sort of blue Labour tradition, that sort of conservative Labour tradition.
Exactly. Listen to what he's saying. Even Tories know that they're Tories with a red stripe. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's why you get people on the left going, oh, I'm not too sure about this Keir Starmer fella. He seems a bit of a Tory. It's because they're all fucking Tories. They're all neoliberals. They all grew up. I mean, I'm going to say this word and you haven't heard it in a while. Maybe you've been living under a fucking rock. Remember the good old word of globalisation? And everyone was for globalisation, free trade. Remember them fucking good old times? No? Nah, thought not. You're not old enough. Anywho, point being is, most of the members of parliament are literally fucking neoliberals. Tories and Labour Party members. Neoliberals. They're all fucking Thatcher fucking boomers and fucking Tony Blair boomers. Most of them are anyway. And the fact that Liz Kendall's back in this, oh my god, like Liz 4% Kendall, are you taking the actual fucking piss? Fucking hell, it reminds me of fucking watching Andrew Neil. Remember the good old days of Andrew Neil on his talk show, BBC Two? No? He used to play all the music and shit and get me fucking copyright straight. Twat.
I like. But overall, what it means is that the Labour Party have abandoned the moment of principle that they had when Jeremy led them and have decided simply to pursue power on the old Blairite.
Yeah, but let's talk about Jeremy Corbyn a second, right? Jeremy Corbyn didn't lose control of the Labour Party because of his policies. He just didn't. And this is the funny part, if you bother to watch politics as much as I do. He lost control of the party because a lot of the wing of his party are neoliberals. As I said, they don't economically agree with his policies, so that's not a good start. And second of all, they wanted to get rid of him anyway, especially because of his political views on, let's say, Palestine and shit like that. And the media definitely didn't fucking like him. So there was no way he was ever going to survive that shit. And he's too feeble, in my opinion, to be a Labour leader. You know who would make a good Labour leader? Mick Lynch. Because he just wants to fuck off, really. But that's another story altogether. I'd vote for Mick Lynch fucking PM any day of the week. Trust me on that. But he would never run, clearly. But whatever. It's not the point. But the fact that he's saying that Lisa Nandy's a nice person because she's on the blue side. Just saying.
Playbook. And, you know, hats off to Keir. The question is, what does he actually stand for? What will he do if he ever wins power?
Well, you know exactly what he would stand for, the same shit Thatcher did. Economic liberalism, you fucking twat. That's exactly what he stands for. Exactly the same shit that got Tony Blair elected. And Margaret Thatcher. Economic liberalism. Neoliberalism, if you want to call it by its actual word. But that's what he'd get voted in on. And the fact that he's going to get voted in is not an endorsement. It's the fact that your party is fucking garbage. As I just stated, you don't win elections in Britain. You fucking lose them.
What choice will the public genuinely have at the next election? And I think the question really remains, what on earth are his core principles? What is he trying to do?
Doesn't have any. Status quo. The only thing he probably might do is some green agenda thing. But that would be common sense anyway to follow that, because that's the way the world's going in terms of technology. But in terms of shit that, like council housing, I've never heard mention anything about council houses, which would be, you would think, would be a Labour manifesto pledge. Build council houses. Nope, not a peep. Scrap the two-child policy. Nope, not a peep. I mean, there's loads of things that you can say. Why has he done it? Why didn't he go on the picket lines? Because one of the things that he needs to do is, and this is the shit part, he needs to get elected. Once you're elected, you can get away with most things, but he needs to get elected. So he can't piss off Middle England, which are who are going to vote for him. And he's got a hard job. This is the first time Labour's going to face an election, a proper one, with, let's say, a leader. Which makes no sense, because they had Jeremy Corbyn, whatever, and Ed Miliband. But let's say someone who's in power that's literally ripe for taking the crown from the Tories. But he's still got a major problem, SNP. Labour have never won an election without Scotland, and that's a fact. If you look at the electoral map, I said it before and I'll say it again, you can't win the government of England if you can't get seats in Scotland. And how did the Tories win the last election? 13 seats from Scotland. That's how they won the last election. Facts, bitches. Facts. That's why it's good to watch these shows and be actually politically aware of shit. Because you know what the fuck they're going to talk about.
Do other than to win power. And what are the answers he's got to the challenges of today? I share your general point and Mona too. I mean, I'm afraid my party hasn't covered itself in glory in the last year or two. I think we've made a series of...
The last time a Tory leader was elected was Boris Johnson. He got booted out and no one's been elected Prime Minister since. Nobody. We've had fucking Liz fucking Truss, who was a fucking disaster. Literally a disaster. And then we got Rishi Sunak, both of whom weren't elected by the British public. So you've had literally 2 shots at changing since Boris Johnson, and you're still screwed the pooch. That's why you're gonna lose the next election, bro. Like, you can't literally tell me that even Tory voters are looking going, what the actual fuck is going on? Because they are. They won't vote Labour, probably stay at home. But they're going, actually what the fuck is going on? If I was Tory, I wouldn't vote for you. You're fucking incompetent.
Political mistakes, but policy-wise, and in terms of the priorities that the Prime Minister has set out, I think we're on the right track. But I would also like us to be distinguished.
Priorities he had to make because this trust killed the economy. one of his main pledges was to get down inflation. And who caused that massive spike? Or a contributing factor, shall we say, to that massive spike in inflation? Yours truly, Liz fucking Truss. Why are mortgage rates so fucking high at the moment? Oh, I don't know, Liz Truss. I mean, like, the fact that the Tories sold off our gas storage, so we didn't have any fucking gas anyway, and if we fucking wanted to, twats. I mean, these are calamity fucking Joes running around the fucking shop, complaining that no one's fucking slapping them on the arse, telling them they're doing a good job. Why on earth would we tell you you're doing a good job? You can't even take a fucking swim in a river without getting doused in shit. And then you say, well, we can't fucking nationalise the water, people, because we need them to invest. Even though they never did. In fact, they got a rebate of taxpayers' money. Do you know that? They got paid. Taxpayers' money. Taxpayers' money, they got paid. While we got shit. Literally, not figuratively.
Ourselves more clearly and coherently from the Labour. None of us should be fighting on the soggy centre ground. We should be setting out our stall coherently as Conservatives, in our case, as Labour in theirs.
Yeah, but you know what happens when that... You know where we go when that happens, though, innit? The right-wing media go after people like Jeremy Corbyn and Ed Miliband. I mean, for as much as Ed Miliband might have been a bit of a twat in terms of useless, the fact that the media called him Red Ed and said his dad was a Russian spy is a bit much. Don't you think? They literally said Ed Miliband's dad was a Russian spy and then continued to call Red Ed. They couldn't go after him about being anti-Semitic because he's fucking Jewish. So they had to make something up like he's a Marxist. Fucking jokers.
I think it's really interesting what Keir's done in terms of kind of creating a slightly more Blairite cabinet, because it just shows he's completely on election footing. He knows...
No, he's always been completely wanting to be a Blairite because he is a Blairite. He was on Jeremy Corbyn's coattails, and I mean, the sad part is when the election leadership came up for who should be the next leader. Let's remember, Jeremy Corbyn was only one of a few people who bothered to put his name in the hat. I tell you who could have won that election, hands down, and I mean this honestly as someone who's watched politics for a long time. Harry Harman. She's the lady of the house. She's the oldest serving member of parliament as a female. She would have beat Panface in a fucking election. Facts. In fact, yeah, she would have beat him, technically speaking, if she would have put her hat in the race. She never did. But she's quite happy to sit on the back benches waffling shit. And she's been there since 1997. She's one of the first Tony Blair's babes. And that's why it's mad. Like, why bring back Liz Kendall? Why? 4% Liz Kendall. She was literally in the fucking... she was literally in the debate thing, leader debate. She got 4%. She came last. Garbage. And now she's back. She can't even answer a fucking question. That's why she got sacked and got stuck on Andrew O'Neill's show and got paid 200 quid for it a night when she was on it. Fuck her. In a fucking choo-choo fucking Michael Portillo. Got a good memory, me, mate.
But the general election is probably about 13 months away. I think it's going to be on Halloween 2024, which I'm sure we're all looking forward to.
No, it won't be. It'll be earlier than that. Rishi Sunak's going to fucking resign before that. And they're going to get a new leader. It's probably going to be Kemi Badenoch. I put my tenner on Kemi Badenoch. It'll be Kemi Badenoch, Suella Braverman, Paddy Mordaunt, probably. Michael Gove, because, well, it's fucking Michael Gove, innit? Maybe, no, it won't be. I was going to say Boris Johnson, but he's already gone. Sorry, flashbacks of bad memories. Who else then? Well, probably them would be the front runners, I would suspect. Jeremy fucking Hunt. We all know he likes to be centre of attention, so he'll probably throw his hat in as well. Being Chancellor, they always do. If they seem competent. Rishi Sunak's just going to fuck off, apparently. I hope. I mean, that's my humble opinion anyway. I think we're going to have a snap election. I don't think he's going to... He knows he's not going to win. Why would you bother? I just call a snap election and fuck off. They know they're going to get hammered. And it's only going to get worse from here on in. It ain't going to get better. It just ain't. The longer they're in power, the more people they're going to piss off.
And the fact
The
that he's
full moon. No,
See, that is an interesting one, because of course we'd have an election that day, and then would be 5 days later
Yeah.
there's the US presidential
it's
election.
going to be the most exciting time for
And
reporters like
Ireland
you.
is probably going to have an election around that time too.
Absolutely. So I think by putting in place
Joe Biden's going to be asleep, Donald Trump's going to win, he's going to be in jail.
the people he wants to see move from his shadow cabinet to his cabinet, it means that they can all do a barnstorming speech at their party conference in about 4 weeks' time. They can begin to lay out what it is that they want to present.
I do not feel inspired by listening to fucking Liz Kendall at all. I just don't. Anybody who tells me Liz Kendall's inspiring to them, fuck me, give me some of your drugs.
To the country, what is it the country is choosing? I know that we don't like that word this evening, but we need to see what it is, because
And this is commentary over this thing, by the way. The reason why is it's literally live as I'm actually doing it, and also I don't want to get copyright strike for literally stealing their fucking show. It's literally live. It's LBC. They will go after me if I don't like commentate over it, which was my intention anywho. And if you don't like me waffling, don't really care.
I still feel as though a lot of people don't really know what Keir is really standing for, what people are going to be voting for when they do go to the ballot.
They're not going to be voting for him. They're going to be saying, we hate the Tories. I mean, it's not a good strategy, but it's a better strategy than fucking what I've seen from some other fucking parties. Hang on a sec.
Ballot boxes.
That's an interesting point, isn't it? Jeremy, when you were leader, I think a year before the 2017 election, a year before the 2019 election, I could have easily sat here and recited the kind of policies that you were going to put in your manifesto, and I think most of the electorate understood that. If you ask me now to spend 5 minutes talking about Labour Party policy at the next election, I couldn't do it, because we don't know. Do you think that's a mistake, that they need to be much more upfront about what they want to do rather than be so frightened of committing to anything?
I think you have to commit to the general direction you want to go, and you have to recognise the sense of stress there is all over the country about insecurity of income, about poverty, about housing issues. And whenever anything remotely radical is suggested within the Labour Party or even by Labour Party conference, it's immediately said by Keir, no, we're not going to do that. Not going to bring water into public ownership, not going to bring energy into public ownership. So what is the offer? Is it going to be regulation of the private sector, which has so lamentably failed in the water industry? I mean, there has to be something a bit clearer. I mentioned the two-child policy earlier, but there are an awful lot of other issues, particularly housing, that is so desperately frightening, particularly for young and middle-aged people.
Well, I mean, what I would say is, and this is the point, you need to win, right? And this is the thing. When Tony Blair, and this is one of Tony Blair's main policies, which a lot of people don't fucking know or forgot. Tony Blair offered people a vote on the European Union, right, in his manifesto. Changed that pretty goddamn quickly, right? Changed it. And that was one of his main pledges. Oh, we'll have a vote in the EU. No, right. So, I mean, I can understand why Labour is trying to be like, a bit vague on their policies. I mean, there's still a long time until the next election, let's be honest. It is like a fucking year away, plus, give or take. I don't think it's going to be a year, but let's just say it is. Then, you know, you have to be vague until like a couple of months before. I always slam Labour on Twitter, to be honest with you. I keep saying, stop saying affordable fucking housing when no one can afford the fucking house that they're already in, basically. You need to build council houses or whatever. So that's my gripe, is always housing. You know, when I waffle on this, it's always fucking housing. I hate the word affordable housing. Fucking gets me gears going. But in terms of other policies, like you just said, the two-child policy thing, that's just status quo shit, because first of all, the economy is in a shithole, in case you haven't noticed. It literally is on its ass. So making spending commitments, even though it's very Tory-esque policy, is probably a bad idea anyway. Right, because they're going to be like, how are you going to pay for it? And that's what they're going to use against them. How do you pay for it? And then everybody knows that the Tories will rob their fucking ideas. Just saying, they will. Labour are up in the polls. Anything Labour says that's even remotely competent will get stolen by the Tories. So it's better to be a bit vague, but not vague for so long, where people are still like that lady there saying, "Well, what does Keir stand for?" Like that's that whole thing is a media narrative created by the right anyway. It's not really created by the left, but the people on the left parrot that shit because it was made by the right. Like the whole word woke didn't come from the left; it came from the right of politics, and it came from America specifically, not England. It came from America and then polluted our fucking vocabulary with that shit, right? The whole notion of being woke is American, and a lot of people who advise our politicians, you'd be surprised, are fucking Yanks, not English. They're fucking Yanks, very bad ones at that.
We've got no permanent secure accommodation.
Do you think
Millions.
that maybe what's missing here from our politics is any sense of optimism and sunlit uplands ahead of us? That, I mean, I remember when you were leader, I remember doing a programme saying I think one of the big mistakes that Jeremy Corbyn is making is being Mr. Misery Guts all the time. And I think that was more towards the end, towards the 2019 election, maybe more than the 2017. But you were rightly doing what an opposition leader has to do and criticise a lot.
Jeremy Corbyn's the only opposition leader I've seen that literally, well, I could compare him to Bernie Sanders in the United States at the time, right? And what I'm talking about is people had enthusiasm for change, right? And the fact that he got bombarded from the right-wing newspaper and just demolished him over like Palestine and anti-Semitism shit was fucking mental. Like, really was mental to watch that unfold. But like I said before, if you actually watch the politics that I stream on my other channel before this one, before that, the other one got kiboshed. But on the other one, they literally did a politics live where they asked people about Jeremy Corbyn's policies in a Tory seat. And you know, every single one of them said that's a good idea. And then they said it's Jeremy Corbyn, and he went, no, I'm not voting for Jeremy Corbyn, fuck that. So they associated the man, even though they agreed with the policy, they wouldn't vote for Jeremy Corbyn, even though the policy, they didn't disagree with it. That's mind-bendingly fucking weird. And that's how the media works, to give you this mad idea that, like, this is bad for you because X. Even though X is good for you, don't vote because boo, boogeyman. That's literally how media works in this country. Like, people vote against their own interests, which is batshit crazy, right? And this is the same thing. Keir Starmer's playing a very sneaky game. He's a lawyer. He should know what he's doing anyway, hopefully. But in terms of will it work? Well, I think he's going to win the next election, but not because he's popular. It's because the Tories are so bad. I will concede that for sure. Whether his policies are inspiring or not, I don't think it really matters. I just think that the Tories are so shit that people would just vote for the Labour Party anyway. He only needs one good policy. Just one, probably. And he'd fucking win. Just one good policy, like free buses or some shit. I don't fucking know, right? Just one good policy where people go, that's actually a good idea. Scrap the BBC TV licence, that's probably a good idea too. People would definitely vote for that. You get the point, right? He just needs one or two good policies and say, this is our two good policies, and we'll see what we can do when we get in power, right? I mean, that's it. We're gonna get rid of the fucking, what's the Home Office? We're gonna scrap the Home Office because it's shite. People would vote for that too because it's fucking shite.
But there wasn't a lot of the sort of, well, over there, that's where we're heading, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's very difficult as a party leader to deal with the complexity of opposing what the government is doing and setting out your vision of the future and setting out the general political vision of the kind of society you want to create. The media doesn't give you a lot of space to set out the vision. All interviews tend to very quickly go into the detail of whatever the problem is of the day. Now, maybe that's the fault of party leaders as well. Maybe it's the fault of our political system. There isn't enough discussion about what your overall objective is. I want to live in a society that is more equal. I want to live in a society where nobody is homeless. I want to live in a society where children don't underachieve in school because of the awful housing they're living in. That's the sort of vision I would like to see, but also being prepared to be quite bold on environmental and social.
I mean, the fact that Jeremy Corbyn's an independent and he's been a Labour leader, he's been a Labour leader clearly, but he's been a Labour member for more than most of them in Parliament, and he's being forced to be independent because he wouldn't say that certain things about Israel and shit. That, I mean, to be fair, I don't know, because I don't really get into the religious shit that people waffle on about, because I'm not religious at all. But in terms of what destroyed them was definitely the anti-Semitism shit. But they used that against them way more, and it was overblown. It definitely was overblown, I'll say that much. Because there was a chick in my ward, I fucking name was, forgotten her now, some Beg. She eventually fucked off to the Independent Party. She was parachuted into Liverpool, basically. Never been here, never lived here, parachuted in, said some mad shit, and then fucked off, never to be heard of again. Lucia Berg, I think her fucking name was. Anyway, people like that shouldn't even be politicians anyway. You shouldn't be allowed to represent a constituency if you've never fucking lived there in your life. That alone should be banned. Like, no jokes. I don't care how nutty you are, but if you've lived there, feel free to stand. But if you haven't, that should be against the rules. How can you just get parachuted into a constituency that you've never fucking lived in to represent? It makes no fucking sense.
Justice policies. You can't run away from the issue of environmental change just because somebody complains that it's a war on the motorist. You've actually got to stand your ground and go out there and campaign on it.
And Danny, this whole thing about being optimistic, that's quite difficult when you've been in power for 13, 14 years and people say, well, you can be optimistic, you can promise us the earth, but why haven't you delivered it in the last 13 years?
That's totally right. And I think you've also got to recognise the reality of the lives that people are living. And the fact is, and I don't blame the government for this exclusively, because it started well before we came to power. In fact, it's a syndrome of our century that real wages have stagnated, living standards haven't.
No, that's not. That's the people at the top who are ideologically driven by the free market. That's the fucking point. The people who believe in the free market are the ones that let wages go down and down and down while productivity went up and up and up. Right? And who benefited from that productivity since the advent of the fucking computer, dare I say, in terms of how we use them today? The CEOs, look how much the average CEO gets paid compared to the person who fucking cleans their toilets. And you're telling me there's nothing wrong with neoliberalism? Fuck off. You guys and that ideological bullshit you've been peddling since the 70s, late 60s, is the reason we're in this catastrophic fucked-hearted mess. And you wonder why people get xenophobic in the countries in which they live. These literal people who claim neoliberalism is the best idea, they've literally given birth to the far right in most European countries. Because people feel that they're being shafted. And rightly so. Rightly so. People want to move countries because their country's shit. And they're clearly going to move somewhere else. And I'm not even talking about migrants that come on small boats. I'm just talking about anybody who could get on a fucking plane at this point. Right? Economic migrants, of course you're going to go to a different country. People think the euro is the same in every European country. No, it isn't. You fucking gobshites. Of course it isn't. Why do you think Germany puts all its fucking factories in shitty countries like fucking, I don't know, it doesn't exist anymore. I was going to say Lithuania, but you get the fucking point, right? Like mad northern shithole countries, and they are shithole countries. Poland used to be until we sent all that money. Sorry, Poland, bad jab there. But you get the point, right? Like, Germany doesn't put its factories in Germany now, does it? No, it doesn't. And them same countries that it puts its factories in use the euro, but they still get paid shit wages. I mean, the whole thing's a scam. The whole economic system has been a scam since Bretton Woods, for fuck's sake. It goes back a long time. But these ideological fuckwits who invented globalization like a good idea because they wanted trading blocks all over the planet. I mean, this is where you get trading blocks from. The TTPC, fucking Eurozone, fucking NAFTA, CAFTA, all these fucking retarded free zones are only there so corporations can fuck the people who fucking live in them countries for free. That's what it is. They all agree, okay, we'll all have the same fucking rates of corporation tax and shit. But you can come and rape and pillage our people. And it's a race to the bottom. It's a fucking joke. I've never played SimCity before, clearly. Just saying. I mean, if businesses were that good, right, then wages would be higher. And businesses would employ more people. But the fact that our businesses get subsidised because the wages are so fucking low, that people who actually go to work pay for their own fucking wages in subsidies. Most people who go to work get in-work benefits. That's their own fucking money that they pay in tax to pay their own wages. You can't make this shit up. It's a merry-go-round of bullshit, and about time someone fucking points out the obvious to people who are not paying attention to the scenario we find ourselves in. I mean, the reason why we've got so many fucking billionaires is because no one fucking taxes them. Fact. You only get a billionaire because you don't get taxed. That's it. Should make it harder to be a billionaire, not fucking easier.
Risen. We're suffering the long effects of technological transformation in the economy, as well as a whole load of cultural changes, which I think have had a bad effect on society. So it is difficult to sound positive.
A whole lot of cultural changes? Like what? Black faces, you fucking cunt. Like, what are you on about cultural changes? What do you mean, mate? You having a laugh?
And actually a whole lot of people are suffering very, very seriously, economically and sort of...
Danny, how do you feel about things like universal basic income?
Well, I think that, that's a policy...
As an example.
Well, I mean, I don't personally think it is the right answer, although I think we do have to transform welfare radically, and we do need to put a proper floor...
Yeah, we should pay people to get trained. That's what we should do. Instead of paying them to, like, as they say, sit on their ass. If someone paid you to go to university or go to college, 99% of people would be like, I'll do that. You know why? Because first of all, it gets them out the house, gives them something to do, and they get a qualification afterwards. Instead of forcing them to go on whatever they get on universal credit, knowing that they got to pay for travel, like all that shit, they're not gonna go. Why would you be asked? Pay them instead. They'll fucking get off their ass and they'll fly there, man. No jokes. And they shouldn't limit it to like just kids. You're 18. You're a poor sapling. No, you need to train everybody. Everybody. The way the world's going anyway nowadays, you're going to have to. Or you're going to have to give money for fucking free at some point. Universal basic income. And don't get me started on UBI. That's a fucking loan shark scheme. I mean, like literally. I need a loan. What? Yeah, for my own tax, please. Can I get a loan for my own taxation? Like, it's a fucking joke. Ian Duncan Smith and his bright ideas, like fucking pie tax. Fuck's sake.
Or under people's incomes. So I recognise the argument there, and you're making a suggestion in response to the changes in our economy, which are real. And
the only thing universal about universal basic income is that it shafts everybody. That's the only thing universal about it. The rest is fucking bullshit. And I can show you the proof of that. Like people say, well, you get money for free off the government. No, you don't. So they give you the fucking P60 when you fucking sign off the fucking dole. You twackers, you get what's left of the tax that they took off it. You do know that, right? You get taxed and then you get what's left. So no, don't give me that bullshit about the free money. Fuck off.
Do need to adapt to them. But, I mean, Ian, I think the challenge for us is the party which has been in power all this time, and the great achievement that Boris pulled off and that we need to pull off again in this election.
The great achievement that Boris Johnson pulled off is replacing Theresa May. Yeah. Pull the rabbit out of a hat. If you say so, Paul. I mean, fucking hell. If that's an achievement, I don't know what is.
Is actually paradoxically to run against our own record, to recognise that a lot is still really, much was done. And just quickly...
What record? What have you achieved in 13 years other than the shittest fucking economy we've ever managed to fucking conceive of? In a very long time. There's literally shit in our fucking rivers. Like, literally. Shit. You can't make it up.
The three things that we did in power since 2010 are to fix the... improve school standards, to reform welfare, and to fix the fiscal crisis.
Okay, first of all, none of them actually are true. We fixed the fiscal crisis. No, you made it worse by giving us austerity. That's a fact. Second of all, you haven't you did improve schools' reading ability. You got us to number 4. Congratulations. But now the kids are going to get crushed by the very same schools you didn't pay for. Just pointing that out clearly, right? Everything got defunded. You even literally say to people, we've got 20,000 more cops, even though that is not true. That is not true. You cut the police force by 20,000. We have the same amount of police plus 3,000 than we did when fucking Labour left office. Like, that's a fact. The fact that you don't know this as a fucking MP is shocking. I'm a fucking layman. Even I know this shit.
Labour left us. But there's a whole lot of stuff we haven't done. There's a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, whole lot of shit you haven't done. One thing we can agree on, a whole lot of shit you haven't done. That's true.
Frankly, that has got worse while we've been in power, and we need to recognise
Schools, hospitals, the country, the army. I mean, literally everything's got worse since you've been in power. Like, I can't name, other than the fact that kids can read better and a number 4 in the fucking reading table. Congratulations, you've made one achievement. Whoop de fucking do.
and to recognise the lives that people are living now. So I'm all for presenting a positive vision. I have a very positive vision. It's quite an old-fashioned one in many senses, but it's also one that responds to the technological realities of today and the new economy that is emerging. I think you need to be real before you can start putting a positive vision.
Can I?
You need to be real before you can be positive. No, you need to be real about the fact that your government is utterly shit. The only remember when Labour won the last election in '97? The reason why that was positive is because we got rid of a fucking shitty government. Like I said, you don't win elections in Britain. You lose them. You just literally, right? So the fact that when we get rid of you lot, people will be like, fucking hell, sigh of relief, right? That alone will be a positive state of affairs. Don't know what's going to happen next, but the fact that you've gone will be a positive thing. That is the sunny uplands we all want. We just want rid of the Tories at this fucking point.
Just say very quickly, though, I think that despite all of this, what people do need is a sense of not just vision in what you can deliver if you come into power, but also what you can actually imagine a society to be. And I think part of the problem is, and I think...
Fuck's sake. I'll start playing John Lennon in a minute.
Jeremy alluded to it, is so quickly public commentators or journalists want to know how you're going to fund everything. And not everything can be funded straight away. Not everyone has an answer to this. But I think what we've found in the last few years...
We do have solutions to fund problems. It's just people don't like the fucking answers. Tax the rich. There's one right there. There's a solution. It's like, oh, we don't know what to do. We don't know where to get the money from. Here's the one. So he's just grabbing a beer. It's fucking roasting today. Like literally, I'm sweating me nuts. Right. So let's just work out a basic math equation here. Not even an equation. It's just rudimentary math, right? If a poor person has £1, right? A poor person has £1, and not poor person has a tenner, and I tax the rich person 10% of his 10 quid, and I tax the poor person 10% of his £1. Who pays more in tax? I'm just saying, who pays more in tax as a proportion of the income that I'm taxing? Technically speaking, it ain't the fellow with the tenner, put it that way.
And I would disagree on some of what you just said just now, but is that people feel that there is very little hope, not because we don't know the answers to everything, but because politics has become so reactive. It's just constantly mopping up messes, and that's not what we need as a society now.
Well, we might come on.
Mopping up the Tories' messes. Let's make that clear, right? For all the shit that's been said about the Labour Party and neoliberalism and all the shit that I say, let's make it very clear to anybody who's listening here. We've had the Tories for 13 fucking years. Let's just point that out. I'm just gonna put my fucking not optimism, caveat it and just say, we've had the Tories for 13 years before I even... Anything I say about Labour, just remember that as a caveat. We've lived under the Tories for 13 years. So it doesn't matter what I fucking say anyway.
On to that in the next question. Do stay listening. It's 17 minutes past 8.
This is LBC.
Dun, dun, dun. See, I told you it's live. Well, it was when I'm recording it. But the point is, I think this panel is worthy of my attention. Maybe because it's Jeremy Corbyn on. I haven't seen Jez on LBC for a while. And also, I just want to waffle. I've missed my politics. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of extra.
To do with the question that we might have at the end of the programme, so I won't give it away at the moment. Ruby in Plymouth says, yet another local council has gone bust and our schools and hospitals are in danger of literally falling apart. Is this the legacy of austerity? We have with us Joe.
Yes, in short. See, after... This is the maddest thing, right? After the crash in 2008, a lot of countries around the world were like, fuck, what are we going to do? In the United States, he said, fuck it, let's just plow loads of money into the system. Now, is that always a good idea? Probably not, right? And America gets away with it more because it's got basically the world's currency. But in terms of debt to GDP ratio, it wouldn't have mattered that much, considering the interest rate was fucking basically zero at that point, right? So the government could have just carried on as normal, so to speak, and give a bit of money to the people who needed it, right? Because let's face it, it weren't a crisis of credit for people, right? It was a credit crisis for fucking corporations. So people would have been fine. The country would have just kept going. And you could have boosted the economy a little by, you know, raising wages by about 50p or whatever the fuck it is, right? You could have kept it going. There was no need to literally take a sledgehammer to the fucking social fabric of our country. And these fuckers did. They literally did. And you don't believe me? You just go and fucking read all the stats since these fuckers have been in power. Like, when Tony Blair was in power, even though I don't agree with PFI, in fact, I had an argument on fucking Twitter about PFI before, even though that's a thing, and it cost, I think, 83 billion quid since 1997, or it will reach 83 billion quid, or 87, or whatever, in 2049. So it's over a very long time, but that's a lot of money. But in terms of, yeah, let's put it in comparison. When we left the European Union, it cost us 100 billion a year. So let's keep it in perspective, right? People say PFI is a bad idea. Yeah, it was. But that's over like fucking 40 odd years, right? Some stupid crate. In fact, it's longer than 40 years. 50, 60 years nearly, right? If you compare that to how much we lose as like GDP wise for Brexit, and caveat I did vote for Brexit, but I'm just saying, as someone who actually likes being honest, that's still 100 billion a fucking year that we lose because we left the European Union. That's a fact per year. So in 1 year, you could finance all the hospitals, basically. The amount we lost in the economy, so to speak. I'm just putting that in perspective. Just so you know.
Jeremy Corbyn, Danny Kruger, Professor Mona Siddiqui and
I just went on a tangent, so I forgot to answer the fucking question.
Sarah Southern. Sarah, let's come to you first on that. This is Birmingham City Council. They've declared themselves bankrupt today, which you think Birmingham is the second city of the country. How can that possibly be?
Because without knowing it, this is mad. Like, you would think, did they spaff it up a wall? You know what actually they did? They signed a mad thing that gave equal pay and backdated it. So everyone claimed the backdated equal pay, which they were entitled to because they signed it, right? So they basically give everybody the same amount of money, and now it's left them literally fucking skint. Which is kind of funny when you think about it, because the intention was there to give everybody equal pay. The massive problem is they backdated it, which left them skint, which is kind of funny. But the intention is good, right? To equal pay. I mean, I think everybody will agree with equal pay, unless you're some kind of like weird Tory.
It's really concerning. I appreciate that other councils have ended up in this position, but we've not had a one that is of this size and you would hope would be able to weather it. I mean, they just had the Commonwealth Games 12 months ago, you know. I was hearing earlier on the radio that one of the reasons that they think it might be is because they have to fulfil £1 billion gap in their gender pay gap, as obviously they...
Yeah, it was backdated, like I said. I already am aware of this. Like I said, they set out to pay people equal pay, but backdated it, which means that they owe a lot of money, basically, which is weird. I mean, let's think about it this way: the amount of governments literally lost to fraud could cover that bill, and that's just through the COVID bullshit that we know, right? Like the amount of money they lost, they could just give them £1 billion, couldn't say, go and get on with it, you know, whatever. But no, the council needs to raise the funds. You know, all the money the council makes goes to goes to actual government, and then gets given back to the councils, which is mad. It's called local funding, if you don't know.
Had auditors in and realised that...
Because councils aren't really allowed to raise their own taxes, so to speak. Not proper ones, anyway. Which I think is a good idea. I think regions should, I wouldn't say compete, because that's the wrong thing, but I think not council taxes, that's retarded anyway. I don't even know what council tax is, the stupidest fucking tax ever, but I'll get onto that in another video. But in terms of, I think regions should be able to raise funds, business rates and shit like that, because that's inward investment, so that's always a good idea. But they're not allowed to do that, really. I think maybe, I'm not too sure if they introduced a law to do that. I know they did the Freeport shit, but that's a scam. But that's not the same thing.
They weren't paying everybody equally. I don't think that should be a reason why a council goes under. You know, everyone should be paid what they should be paid, but...
It is when it's backdated, and that's the fucking point I just made. They did it within good faith in terms of, yeah, well, we should be paying people equal. I don't know how they didn't, which is the most strangest part. Like, they didn't know that they weren't paying everybody equally for the same fucking job. Like, you'd think you'd notice that, right? I'm just saying. Like, if I'm, like, literally on the telephone doing my job, working for, I don't know, city council or whatever, and there's a woman sat next to me doing the exact same job, why is she getting paid less money than me? Or whatever. Like, that makes no fucking sense. Like, I don't know. That's weird. So, the fact that they wanted to fix that's a good idea. The fact that they missed it's a fucking retarded fucking thing anyway. That's what I'd be more... I'd be like, why did you miss it? And then, because they backdated it, that's how you got into the whole £1 billion nonsense. Which, yeah, I mean, that's basically incompetence if you ask me. And there should be an investigation, like, who or what made that scenario even be a scenario. Like, somebody should definitely get sacked. Or not be in a job, for sure.
I fear that...
And I don't give a fuck what party you're from. You should definitely get the sack for being that stupid.
This could be the beginning of something that we see across the country, and especially what we've seen with the melting concrete.
We have seen it in Thurrock and I think...
But they're Tory funded ones, right? But the Tory funded ones are not the same. I mean, this is the thing. All these councils have got no money because of austerity. Their budgets have been slashed literally to the fucking bone. All of them. Doesn't matter if you're a Tory, Labour, Lib Dem council. You've got less money to play with. Like, they're putting up taxes in some council taxes in some conservative places that normally would never do it. I remember watching a programme with an interview with a minister, or not a minister, an MP who's a Tory MP saying, I've got no fucking choice, literally, other than putting up council tax. We're broke. And that's a Tory fella who's like, we've got no budget. So it's not just Labour who's going bankrupt. But I can understand the bankruptcy of this one. Like I said, incompetence more than anything else, if you ask me. But the fact that other councils, if you separate this one, which I would literally say incompetence, then, you know, you can obviously put it down to austerity, which was, is this because of austerity? And I would honestly say yes. Like, people think the country can go broke. It's impossible to go broke if you've got a central bank. Please pay attention to that one fact. You can't go broke if you can print your own money. You can't go broke. The only thing you get is inflation and stupid prices. But you don't go broke. Like, here's a key word: Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's never gone broke. It's got $1 trillion fucking note, and it takes about 10 of them to buy a loaf of bread. Like, literally. They've got $1 trillion notes like we use pennies. And that's not a fucking joke. They've never gone broke though, which is funny as fuck, right? You can't go broke if you got your own fucking credit card. You print the money. Like, people say, well, we're in debt. Yeah, to ourselves. We literally borrow from our own fucking bank. That's where the debt is, and then the bank puts it on the stock market, and then people buy our debt. That's what happened under Liz Truss. If anybody knows anything about economics, Liz Truss said, we're going to borrow fuck knows how much money, right? The Bank of England went, I don't think that's a good idea. Nobody's going to buy it. And the fucking free market went, we're not buying that shit. It's trash. Trash bonds. That's like shit grade fucking bonds. No one's buying that debt. And you know what happened? The fucking interest went up on everything. Because like everyone thought the government lost the fucking plot. Are you gonna pay me back if you haven't got a job? It's like, what are you doing? Your economy's shit. You just left the European Union. You're a fucking disaster anyway. Are you gonna pay us? In fact, you're not gonna pay us, are you? So no. And then she got the sack. Right? That's how economic works in the 21st century. We have got a bank, but the only way you're going to get people to lend you, well, buy your debt, is if you've got a competent fucking government. And sadly, we ain't got one. Now, if Keir Starmer gets in, hopefully the businesses will think, yeah, he's way better than these Tories. These Tories are fucking garbage. So, he can probably borrow money, and nobody will bat an eyelid or charge 7% like fucking Liz Truss tried to fucking do, which is fucking insane. Which is why your mortgage rates went up, by the way.
Is it Northamptonshire or
Yeah.
South Northamptonshire?
But one of the concerns, obviously, is that there will be things that they're committed to pay for. You know, they will have contracts with people. Are we at a point where they can't fulfil those? Or
No, we're not, because the government will have to pay them anyway. This is what I'm trying to say. Councils give government their tax, and then the government goes, "Here's your tax back," with less money sometimes. Which is the point of the whole budget thing. Is the whole budget is like when people say the country's too centralised. It is. Like, local regions should keep more of their fucking money. Like, literally should. Because it benefits the local economy. Sending it back to fucking Whitehall, where they get spaffed up a wall somewhere on fucking £32 million renovating some shitty office that some twat works in who can't be asked to get off her ass. Yet you. Talking about you. Right? I'm pretty sure that money could be better spent in, I don't know, a local community, on, let's say, I don't know, a little community centre for the youth to keep them off the streets, a little clinic for people. I don't fucking know. I'm pretty sure it'd be better spent somewhere fucking else other than some twat's office.
are they in a complete limbo until they're voted out? When are the next elections there? It puts it in a very difficult position. And I can only assume that the government's going to have to...
You could end up like my fucking local fucking, well, was, I should say former, because I don't want to accuse my local new leaders of being corrupt, because there's no evidence of that. But the previous one was, like, he literally, and this is not even a joke, Mayor Anderson in Liverpool, what a fucking crackhead he was. He literally, and this is not a joke, this is actually a true story. He literally tried to sell one of our parks called Newsham Park, which is, you know, beautiful park, pretty big, as big as Sefton. But it's a pretty big park. He tried to sell a chunk of that park, literally dig it up, build houses, and guess who it was to? His fucking family member. You couldn't make it up. Like, well, he's an Evertonian, so you could definitely see why. But you get the point, right? So, for people who say it's just Tories who are corrupt, nah. I think we need stricter oversight of these fucking local people, or whatever you call them, representatives. But at the same time, you should have a bit more autonomy. Like, I love the fact that Andy Burnham I think it's Andy Burnham, yeah, and I'm not too sure which other one. I'm pretty sure it's Andy Burnham. But anyway, I was watching a video the other day where there's a fleet of government buses owned by the council. Yes, please. Like, why am I paying £2.10 on one bus? Oh, fucking missed the bus. Then on the other bus, £2.75 for the exact same 2 stops. Like, literally the exact same route. One bus charges me £2.10. The other bus charges me £2.75 for the exact same fucking ride. And if you was to buy a weekly travel card, which I used to do, by the way, if I missed one bus and got the other one, I couldn't use my travel card on that other bus because it's not the right travel card. That's fucking retarded. The fact that we've got such a broken ass free-for-all on public transport and infrastructure is brain dead. It literally is fucking brain dead. And people go, well, private companies, they'll lower the price. Fuck off. No, these are essential services that we need. Like the internet, right? If people think the internet isn't a utility, I would like you to sit in your house for 3 days, just 3, not even a fucking week, 3 days without no internet. Let's see how much you cope with that shit. And tell me, is it a utility or not? You'll soon find out it pretty much is a utility at this point. Just saying.
Step in. We can't have a council like Birmingham not fulfil.
You say
all
the
its
government,
criteria.
effectively, you mean the taxpayer?
True. The taxpayer is going to have to step in again.
Yeah, but the taxpayer is the one who got disenfranchised in the first place. Like I told you before, if you pay attention to how the economy works, right? If you're on any kind of subsidy from the government, if you're working, you are paying tax to subsidise your own fucking income in benefits. That's retarded. You should never, ever, 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 ever get income from the government if you have a job. There should be no need whatsoever. And this is not even a new thing. Not new at all. Under Gordon Brown, who introduced that credit shit. What's it called? Is it It's not universal credit. I forgot what the fuck it was called. Whatever, anyway, probably was some shite. Anyway, point being is, when you were in work, Gordon Brown introduced the whole concept of, we will give you money if you've got a job. Instead of going, what we should do instead is lower the costs of business and actually make businesses pay you more wages, balance it a bit more. Because if you give people more money, what do people do when they've got more money? What's the law of averages that they're going to do next? Fucking spend it. Just saying. Right? So that pumps money back into the economy. Instead of giving subsidies and artificially keeping wages down for businesses, which is not their biggest expense, might I add. Not wages. A lot of people think wages is the biggest expense of a business. It isn't. It's overheads. So if you bring down their overheads through taxation, right, they can afford to pay people higher wages, which means they're more likely to spend it in the real economy, not the FTSE 100, which is literally bullshit. The only stock market you need to focus on is the FTSE 250. They're the actual SMEs of the country. They're the ones who actually make the fucking world go round, not the FTSE. Most of them people on the FTSE don't pay tax. Just so you know. Well, not enough, as far as I'm fucking concerned.
And what about the second part of the question here about the fact that we've got this problem with this form of concrete, which means that some schools are having to close, or at least having some classrooms. Hospitals inevitably are going to be affected as well, and I suspect a lot of other places. Now, the questioner, Ruth, thinks that's down to austerity, is it?
I don't necessarily.
It's down to cheap shit. Cheap shit. Oh look, we can make cheaper concrete. Probably. Is it any good? No. I think that's because they want to get rid of the regulations. See that block of towers over there? It looks like a pile of shit. What are we going to do as people who are landowners to make it more attractive? Instead of actually making the building inside better, I've got a bright idea. Let's put shiny shit on the outside instead. Highly flammable shit, might I add. That goes up like a fucking Christmas tree. Let's put that on the outside of the building. Grenfell Tower, ring any fucking bells. It's all the same. If you make the entire society based upon profits, bit like Twitter or the internet in general, where literally everybody wants to make money for doing literally fuck all, like the Tory party, then what do you expect if your government is literally telling people, here's some money, do it on the cheap? That's their entire thesis. Profits. Not the well-being of society. That's their fucking job to do. No, let's do it on the cheap. We have got no standards whatsoever. Just get it done. And then complain about it afterwards when everybody's already run off with the money. Like Grenfell. They already got rich, no one went to jail for that shit.
I think it's 100% down.
People died, nobody went to jail.
To austerity, but it's certainly down to the pressure.
And then the cheeky bastards made people who bought the fucking houses pay for their own cladding to get removed, which will set them on fire. Now the taxpayer has to pay for the actual fucking good concrete that should have been used in the first place by nefarious contractors who got the job, bit like PPE. Why did we waste all that money on PPE? Because the government was so retardedly fucking stupid that it's not, well, we shouldn't make our own PPE. We just buy it from China or some fucking other retarded country.
That we've had, I think if we look,
no long-term vision of the country. This is the problem with these politicians. They think like 5 minutes into the future. They're like YouTube videos. They just want clicks. That's all politicians. The fucking memes, like clickbait. And when people say that in videos, like, we have to do it because of the algorithm. Like, no, you're doing it because you're a slime ball. You literally intentionally lie to people to click on your videos for you to make money, not because you want to inform me about anything. You literally lied in your title and you say it's because of the algorithm. I'm just doing what everybody else does, therefore it's okay. No, you're the fucking problem. That's the fucking point. The algorithm, you're feeding it. The algorithm would change if you stop lying in your fucking clickbait titles. Just pointing out the fucking obvious.
What we've had
It's a fucking algorithm
to spend money on in the last 3 years, we're all aware of what it has had to have been, or what the priorities of the country have been in 2020 and 2021. But if councils aren't able to do things like build new schools, and kids are still learning in buildings that were thrown up in the 1950s and 1960s in the post-war era, those have got to be replaced. They've got to be new schools.
But Michael Gove, when he was Education Secretary, he cancelled Ed Ball's Building Schools for the Future programme, but presumably because the financial situation that the country was in at the time. So
no, that's a choice. That's literally a choice. This is the point. Like I just said, when the financial crash happened, did anyone say, well, the banks, well, I don't know, it's a choice, innit? It's a choice. Shall we let them fail because that's what you do in a capitalist society, or shall we just literally spat socialism right up their jacksie and give them all money? The United Kingdom literally could have just nationalised every bank in Britain. Literally nationalised a fucking lot of them. Did they? No. They just didn't. Let me just remind you of something. Banks don't issue currency. They just make profits on the transaction of fucking money. They don't make money from money in terms of issuing it. They make money from ledgers, IOUs, that's all. When you put your money in a bank, do you think they lend your money to somebody else? No, they don't. You stupid fucking cunt. They just don't do that. I don't know what world you live in to think a bank takes your money and lends it to somebody else. That's not how banks work. It just isn't. It's retarded that people still think that in the 21st century. Like, I remember having a good argument with a Scottish lady. I think her name was Sky or some shit. And I literally asked her, do you literally think people can print their own money? Right? Because they can't. Governments can, though. I'm just saying. A government can print its own money. So when they say, we've got no money, that's a blatant lie to your fucking face. It's a blatant lie. So yeah, you could have changed it. Of course you could have. Twats. You choose not to. And that's driven by ideology. Fuck all else.
That surely has to be put down to austerity.
Yeah, but I don't believe it's a.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Fucking Ian Dale seen the light. That must be down to austerity, which wasn't an economic choice. It was an ideological driven choice. I don't know why people fucking miss this point of ideology in this whole economics bullshit. It's ideology that drives economics, by the way, people, in case you didn't fucking notice. Right? A socialist government will have completely different economic outcomes than, let's say, I don't know, a capitalist one or quasi-capitalist, right? We don't really have we don't have in any part of the world a fully capitalist country. We just don't. And people believe otherwise because they're fucking nuts, but we just don't. Even America has fucking social safety nets, believe it or not. And they love capitalism, especially for corporations.
100% of austerity. I think, that if we were listening to the former civil servant in education, he was saying that it had been the Chancellor at the time who'd reduced the amount of schools that were.
Yeah, which was a choice. But you didn't have to. You could have just fucking said, okay, fine. And we'll put a little tax on somebody else to pay for it. Not a big deal.
Built, and I believe the Chancellor at the time was Rishi Sunak. So.
You lowered corporation tax to the lowest it's ever been, I think, give or take. I think it was, right? And cheated about it. Didn't he lower it to 45p or something? Oh no, that was quasi-quartine. Get the 50p. I mean, to be fair, I think that's I forgot what tax it is. Whatever. Anyway, that used to be like 60 odd pence. I remember Bob Geldof and other people saying, "Oh, we're leaving Britain if the tax goes up to 60p." Fuck off then.
I think that this is a long-standing problem and a problem that is going to impact us for decades to come.
Yeah, that's what always happens when you vote in a Tory government. It always happens when you vote in a Tory government. Impacts you for decades to come. Wow.
Bona.
I think if you don't invest in infrastructure, the hardware of a society, and you don't invest in people, you're going to end up where we've ended up. Now,
No, if you don't invest in the very thing that brings in taxes, that goes against the very point of being a government. Like, let's point this out here. What's your job as a government? Is it to look after the rich or to look after everybody, including the rich? I know you might not like that, but it's to look after everybody, including the rich, right? So, you have to be fair with taxes. I'm just saying. So, if you look at the proportion of wealth in this country versus the not wealthy, the wealthy people have way more wealth than is reasonable at anybody's latest calculation, right? So what you say is, okay, in order to balance the economy out more than it is, instead of hammering people with no fucking money, we're going to make sure that the rich pay a bit more, reasonably more than they already pay right now. Because the thing about being rich and taxing the rich, which nobody points out, is you can't go poor if you're rich. You just get less richer. If you tax the poor, you stay poor. I mean, like, that's common sense. That's nobody, like, pointing out the fucking obvious here. So, the rich can cry, but they're still rich. Right? And you can't tax the poor because they've got no money, anywho. And this redistribution of wealth shit that people go on about, like it's a bad idea. Well, how the fuck do rich people get rich in terms of the people who... Let's take fucking Elon Musk, for instance, right? Now, probably a bad example because not everybody's Elon Musk. But let's say, fair enough, he started off as an entrepreneur, right? PayPal, etc. Made billions. People castigate him, right, for being stupidly rich. And he is. But I look at Elon Musk and think, who else in the category of stupidly rich is even remotely doing what Elon Musk is doing? Nobody. apart from Jeff Bezos, who makes his workers piss in bottles, which I wouldn't put on the same level as Elon Musk, to be quite frank. He ain't that smart. But he's just rich. But you get the point, right? He's not doing anything useful, as far as I'm aware. Other than sending a rocket that looks like a giant penis. It's a low orbit, right? But Elon Musk literally sends astronauts into space for a lot cheaper than NASA used to charge the American people in taxes. Just saying. So, there's some rich people who deserve, I think, not so much castigation. But the vast majority of people in Britain who are stupidly fucking rich should stupidly fucking pay more tax. A lot more tax. Wealth tax, as I said. You can't tax the wealth of poor people. They don't have any. So where do you expect the income to come from? And you get Tories saying, well, rich people pay far more in proportion of taxation than poor. No, they don't. No, they don't. They pay way less when it comes to income and what you've got left. Clearly. Because they're fucking rich. Look up the definition of rich versus poor. It's not fucking rocket science.
Of course, there are lots of external issues as well. But I think governments have choices, and they don't have to make the most popular choices. They have to do what's...
And here's a basic fact from our capitalist cousins over the water in America. The biggest economic boom in the United States. Do you know what their tax rate was in the United States? It was like fucking 90% nearly. Like literally, they taxed the fuck out the rich. You know what happened? People still got rich. And all the poor people got money to spend, and the rich people benefited from it because the money basically went in a massive circle back to the rich, because it was the rich people who were fucking giving their money basically to get it back in the tax system, because you were buying more shit in the shops and riding the railways and all that shit, and they managed to build the interstate highway in the United States. Their tax rate was 86%, high earners. Imagine that in Britain. If we made people who were earning stupid amounts of money, I'm not talking like doctors and nurses here. I'm talking about like stupidly fucking rich people. If they paid 60%, even 60p in the pound tax rate, at like the top of the tree, an extra 10 pence, 10p, and you're already stupidly fucking rich. You wouldn't even blink and notice that. When you're that rich, mate, you don't check your bank. You just don't. You would make more money on interest than what you pay in tax on that 10p. That's a fact.
Right. And sometimes...
Yeah, none of these fuckers have the balls to do that.
Sometimes doing right, investing in things that may seem invisible, but form the backbone of a society. You know, the fact that, okay, maybe only just over 100 schools. The fact, it's not about schools now. It's about children's learning, parents who may have to work around their children's learning now or not be able to go to work. It's about young children who are already deprived of certain levels of education because of COVID, etc., now going to go through actually more tension, more stress. And these things have long-lasting impacts on society. They're not just temporary. And so I think, you know, we don't talk about infrastructure because we think our infrastructure is almost intact. But what we're seeing in the last 2 or 3 years...
Who the fuck said that? I mean, she's probably the only person who's ever said our infrastructure's intact. I've never said that in my life. I went to the Netherlands, I thought I was on another planet, like literally. I came and was like, oh my god, I live in the fucking Stone Age.
Is that it's the very backbone of society, infrastructure and people. That infrastructure is falling apart and it's causing people to fall apart.
Danny?
Well, this dodgy concrete was poured years before the austerity programme began 10 years ago, and it's a legacy of shoddy building going back decades. Of course, it needs to be fixed, and it's, you know, a great shame that it's only just come to light. And I think we need to understand why that is. I think there is a challenge to.
It is lovely to do. I went there, honestly, when I got on the train, first time I went there, I was like, they got double-decker trains. That alone blew my mind. I was like, holy shit, double-decker trains. What the fuck is going on? Yeah, I love the Netherlands. Great place, nice people. Apart from one person.
My party about the austerity years. I regret the way that, although we had to cut public spending because of the fiscal situation that we had.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Didn't have to cut it whatsoever. Not at all.
Heritage was so dire. And Mona's right, of course, that there are choices, but the choice that was made, I think, was the right one, which was that it was simply impossible to carry on borrowing at such an enormous rate, and that some spending cuts had to be made.
No. See, the thing is, you had a choice. You could have raised the taxes on the wealthiest people who weren't affected by it. Literally weren't affected by it. Or burn the country to the fucking ground. And let's just say you burn the country to the ground. Facts. Ideological bullshit, like I said.
I do regret the way a lot of those spending cuts fell on local government. I think there was a hollowing out
You voted for them, you prat. What do you mean you felt sorry for them? No, you don't. You fucking lemming.
of some communities. I don't think that we needed to necessarily do that building programme for schools. I regret the loss of many services in local communities. I think matter more.
You voted for them. No, you don't. You fucking gleeful tit.
Personally, my great challenge to us all is to think, how do we nurture a healthy society? And actually a lot of that is about having strong local...
Easy. Get rid of the Tories. That's all. Problem solved. Like, literally. He's answering his own question. Get rid of you people like you. Fuck off. Go and wait for a hedge fund. Do something fucking else. Twat.
Government. And I'm afraid in this case, local government is responsible for the upkeep of these.
But if you cut
schools.
local government budgets by 40%,
Hello. Yeah, go on. Keep going, Ian Dale.
isn't this the inevitable result of that?
Well, actually, this is about capital spending, and I don't think the budget...
Which is by the Treasury. Blah, 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 blah. I'm just saying. It's literally the Treasury who set the capital budget for the United Kingdom. In case you weren't aware of that fact. Oh my god. How are these people politicians and who votes for them? I should be a politician. I definitely should.
It was cut to that degree.
I'd just call people cunts. Don't care. I should be independent. Vote for me. Fuck these cunts. That's my leaflet. Fuck these cunts. Vote for me.
There, but actually...
Fuck these cunts. Vote for me.
There is always a challenge for local government about how to spend. But my answer to the genuine difficulty that local councils have, and we have it in Wiltshire, is we need to reduce the demand on local government, and the great demand is social care.
We need to reduce the demand. How are you going to reduce people's existence? Eh? How are we going to reduce existence? But that's what he's saying, isn't it? That's what it sounds like to me. He's saying, how does the government reduce existence? It sounds like fucking China. Instead of saying, how can we adequately fund the rich people in our country to pay for the fact that we got old people who should be looked after anywho?
60% of local government spending goes on care for the elderly. And
yeah, because they're old, they pay tax. What did you do with their money? You spaffed it up a wall. I'm just saying, you literally spaffed it up a wall and then you're complaining about it. Like, these people are fucking old. They cost too much money. No, they pay tax all their life. What are you doing with their money? One would ask.
that is because we spend way too much on late intervention, supporting very expensive residential care homes, rather than helping people to...
Private ones. You spend way too much money on private ones. That's I'm using a council with a council community thing for the elderly. When?
grow old in their own homes, and to prevent them requiring so much expensive support. So I think we should be fixing the social conditions that lead to this high spending, and then we'll have the cash that we need to do this very important work about propping up our buildings. But the main thing we need is a healthier society that doesn't impose such enormous costs on the state.
Jeremy.
We need a healthier society that doesn't on the state. No, mate, your job is to balance the books, and clearly you're shit at that, aren't you?
Well, I think the Birmingham situation is almost predictable. A lot of people have seen this coming for a while, but all local authorities have had huge cuts, as you've said, in central government spending. And remember, roughly 80% of all local authority expenditure comes directly from central government. In some cases, it's more than that. The local rate doesn't raise that much. And in the case of Birmingham, I really don't like the way the whole thing is being framed around it's the issue of equal pay. Equal pay is a given. It should be there. There shouldn't be.
No, Jeremy, I agree, but the point is, how did you miss that? Right? I mean, as much as I fucking hate the Tories, I do have to be honest and, you know, unbiased here. How the fuck did you, how did that miss? Like, the Monday morning briefing? Like, if I'm the fucking councillor and someone says, here's your daily notes, and it says at the bottom, by the way, nobody forgot to check equal pay. I'm like, who was that? Can we sack them already? I'm just saying. Like, how did you miss that fucking clanger?
Even debating it. I don't say that is the
No, we're debating it because first of all, someone didn't pay attention that they should have been doing that in the first place. So who didn't do that, right? I want to know who that is. And second of all is, they back paid it. That's why they're skint. And they were legally obliged to back pay it. I mean, they got themselves in a fucking debt spiral at that point. So I do blame the council for being shit at their job, clearly. Let's be fair. It's a stupid ass fucking... It's a big mistake. A whopper, shall we say.
Right, that is the rate that has to be paid. So I support what the GMB union has said on this, where they feel they're being sort of pushed into being almost blamed for the situation in Birmingham. Now, the point you make about buildings and infrastructure is an important one. The use of PFI contracts in the health service has cost the health service a great deal of money.
83 billion quid. 87 or 83, I can't remember what I put before. I actually looked it up. It's either 83 or 87 billion since 1997. So it's not like that's the total, and we'll only finish paying it in 2049. Just pointing that out. So we've still got a long way to go to pay it off.
Schools.
But that's when the very last contract will end, by the way. So a lot of it's being paid already in terms of the money. So it's not like it's just whack. That's been over a very long period of time. So don't get your knickers in a twist. Was it expensive? Yeah. But let's remember why PFI was even implemented. Because we had no fucking way to literally rebuild the shit that the Tories left us. So Tony Blair, whether you like him or not, was like, fuck, we need the private sector to come in and build us hospitals. And he did. No kidding, he did, right? But at the same time as the contracts are stupid. You can't escape that. But like I said, it was the fucking Tories that Tony Blair had no choice other than to go capping on to the private sector. Just saying.
The future.
That's what I'm saying. It's great knowing these things as somebody streams politics, because like all these questions, I could fucking answer them. Like literally. And put Ian Dale on his fucking ass with facts.
Whilst it did build a lot of new schools, also involved with it some degree of PFI. And I talk to head teachers of my local schools who are alarmed at the amount of money they have to spend on just paying the people that did the work to build the building. That shouldn't be coming out of the school budget. That should be a clear responsibility. So where do we go from here? Are we to say that Birmingham doesn't deserve an elected local authority that can make decisions for the future? I think you have to look very seriously at the level of underfunding of inner city areas with very high needs. And Danny's point about...
No, they were just incompetent. I'm going to disagree. They were incompetent. Like I said, if you need to back pay, a simple thing like equal pay, who didn't get the memo about equal pay? That's what I want to know. Like, who didn't do their job? That seems a pretty fucking normal thing to enact as part of like a council. Equal pay, right? Like the Equalities Act has been in play since fucking God knows when.
Social care is a fair one, because social care is a huge demand, more so in some areas than others, and I suspect in his constituency probably higher than other places. I don't know, but I would imagine it probably is. But I think that means as a country we should be saying we want a national care service, possibly administered via local government, but something that is set apart from day-to-day local government service. So we say you get your health service free at the point of need.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Like, have you seen the amount? Well, I mean, you've watched the amount of question times I've watched. I'm guessing, right? The amount of times people say, "I would not mind paying an extra 5 pence, 10 pence, whatever the fuck it is, right, on your weekly wage, 10p, 20p, if I knew in my tax packet it said national insurance, whatever, as long as it was reasonable, clearly, and then it says." When you die, when you're dying insurance or some shit, right? Like when you're fucking fragile and you want to just like go to Burning Man and commit suicide, getting stoned or whatever. Like if it said that 20 pence, I'd be like fine. I don't mind paying an extra 20p. Just make people pay for it in their tax. People wouldn't be asked if it works. Like the thing is, the British people, as fucked up as we are, we're a very pragmatic bunch. I will give us that right. As much as our country is in the shitter, we're very pragmatic. I mean, come on, we are. You know, we invented keep calm and drink a cup of tea. Let's get shit straight here. Like we were the only last surviving country fighting the fucking Germans until the Americans decided to take away our empire. But that's another story, right? So, all I'm saying is, if you be honest with the British public and say, look, you don't want to worry about fucking healthcare when you're fucking 90 or whatever the fuck you are, when you stop eventually working, because you're going to be working until you're like dead nearly. Cause brain. 20 pence, pay up, right? People will be like, alright, that makes sense. Go watch Question Time. People literally fucking said that on Question. I don't know how many Question Times I've seen people say that. And I agree with them. I'll pay 20p. As if it works. I'm not giving you 20p if it doesn't work though. Fuck that. I'll give me 20 pence. Get the point though, innit? So, I think people would be inclined, if you literally say to them, here's the price, how about it? And we promise it works. And it does. People won't care. Like, they would rather pay 20p than pay the TV licence. There's more value in paying 20 pence for that than there is paying fucking 20 pence for your fucking TV licence. Don't get no value from that shit at all.
You get your care free at the point
Apart from Doctor Who, that's shite as well.
of need, assessed as you need it, and supporting people to do that. Maybe local authorities are the best to deliver it, but I just think we've got to accept as a society that there are a large number of people that need social care. It is terrifying for families in middle age that are funding their kids through university and their parents through social care.
But they shouldn't be this is another thing, fucking universities, they should be state funded anyway. Why am I paying to be educated to only go and work for a corporation who doesn't pay any tax? The vast majority of the corporations I'm going to get educated for don't even pay the same interest that I'm going to pay on my student loan. My student loan interest is higher than the tax on Amazon, for instance. Like, let that sink in. A student who gets a graduation or graduates will pay a higher rate of interest than the tax burden on Amazon. That's bonkers. That doesn't work. What I would do is tax Amazon and then make people go to fucking university for free. If they want these little fucking nerds to work with them, doing AI or whatever the fucking new jobs of the future are, they should be paying us to go to school, to work for them. Anybody ever seen Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall? I'm pretty sure you've seen Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd. Yeah, times have changed, bitches. You should be asking me, not the other way around. You want me to make you rich? You better pay up. Like for my education. The corporations, tax corporations, to pay for kids to go to school. Tax them. They're the ones who fucking want them. Just saying.
And remortgaging their properties just to keep the family head above water. As a country, we cannot go on ignoring it.
I don't think we need a national...
And why are they remortgaging their houses? Because they've been fucking bullshitted into buying one in the first place. Germany right? Germany, most people in Germany don't own their own home. They just don't. They own council house. Well, they don't own council house. They fucking live in a council house, right? And the reason why a council house is a good idea, this is the only thing I'm going to say, and I've said it about 1 billion times. If you got a council house, did you see any change in your rent during this mad period of the spike in interest rates? The answer is no. And why is that? Because the fucking government owns the house. The government owns the house. So your rent won't go up if you live in a house in a social... Pardon me. If you live in like a housing association thing. Right? If you got a private landlord, God help you. And this is what I'm saying. People are obsessed with affordable housing. Shut the fuck up about affordable housing. Your fucking job is to build fucking houses, not sell me one. You fucking twit.
Care service. I think that's a really dangerous idea. I think it would replicate.
Dangerous? How's
Well,
it dangerous?
let me try and answer. I think it would replicate all the worst features of the NHS without any of the good ones. We'd have the centralisation, the bureaucracy, the standardisation, rather than what we need. And actually, what is good about the care sector as it is that it's very local. It's got a whole diversity of providers. It involves the families themselves in the care of their loved ones, and it has a mixed economy. Those are the good aspects of the care system. But you're right.
A mixed economy that's failed. He's trying to promote something that's literally fucking failed. What part of it don't work don't this guy get? It's like he lives on a completely fucking other planet than the fucking actual shit that people face. And the NHS. I don't understand how we can literally sit there with a straight face saying the worst part of the NHS versus private corporations. Because that's exactly what he just said. Yet we know it failed and is failing. What part of failing don't you fucking realise in a dictionary, you twat?
That we need more money.
Failed even. Look up fail, that's a better word. It's related to failing, but I'm going to be more precise. Failed.
To it. But
You'd be fucking having the conversation if it worked, you fucking gobshite. No one goes around saying, well, you know what, the combustion engine's a shitty idea, isn't it? No, it's not. It's a great idea. When you want about you twat.
Fundamentally, I think we need.
I mean, we don't. It's going to get phased out. Like, we don't go around fucking riding horses anymore for fucking obvious reasons. Shit changes. But the fact is, it don't work no more. Just doesn't. It's quite simple. Tell the truth. Not wrong with telling the truth, mate. You're going to have to pay more tax because you're living longer. Most people can logically understand that fucking equation in their head. The problem is, none of you got the balls to just come out and say it. We're going to put your taxes up and you're going to have to pay you more money. 20 pence each. Thank you very much. That should cover the tab. 20 pence or whatever it is, right? As long as people know where their money's going, they don't care. Like, this is the point about politicians. They're so afraid of their own bullshit. They're literally scared to just be fucking human beings and tell the truth. Put taxes up. That's it. Like I said before, how many questions have you watched where people just go, put the tax up? I'll pay. You dickheads. Oh, we can't put taxes on normal people. We all, like, when nurses go on strike, this is funny. they reference nurses and doctors as some other species of human. Like, they don't pay tax. Like, this is the maddest shit you'll ever see. Nurses are on strike, or it disrupts the public. I mean, I read a dictionary. The public is everybody. So I'm pretty sure nurses are included in the people who pay tax. Just pointing out the fucking obvious, you twat. But this is the point about these political fucking waffly cunts. They always want to conquer and divide, right? They want to make you some kind of difference. Like, your tax isn't the same as somebody else's tax because poor people don't deserve, okay, I don't even know I'm going to say universal basic income because that's a trash system, but whatever. Universal basic income, and then forget to tell you that you get taxed and then you get universal basic income. Literally. Which nobody ever fucking points out.
Need to be.
Nobody.
supporting families themselves to look after their elderly parents as much as they can, rather than waiting until they get so unwell that they can then receive more money, which is what.
I don't know any human being in Britain that would voluntarily throw their mum or dad in a home. Nobody. So to think that's like a thing is like you literally wait until the last minute. Like literally. Right? Most people. I know my mum would haunt me if I ever did that anyway. Like she'd be like, "Ugh." I'm like, oh my god, she's gonna kill me. Right? So I don't think most people honestly are going like, yeah, let's stick me mum or me dad in a fucking hospice for shits and giggles. Right? They would rather have the facilities to do that, right? That's true. But if you come to a point where literally you would rather have medical professionals do it, in terms of like home carers or whatever, or carers in a building, I'm pretty sure most people would pay tax for that, for real.
You get if you put your elderly parent into residential care. So we need to be helping families to look after, and it's not just elderly, of course, it's disabled adults as well. It's very, very expensive for families at the moment. We do need to relieve.
I'm having a mental health crisis. I've been living under the Tories for 13 years. That's my mental health issue. Tories fucking give me anxiety every time I listen to one of them. I get panic attacks.
That cost, but I don't think we do that by nationalising the care system. We need to support local communities.
No, exactly. We don't get that by actually nationalising it. We get that by giving private corporations taxpayers' money. Listen very carefully what he's saying here. We give taxpayers money to corporations. Hello? Is nobody listening to what he's saying here? Instead of everybody chipping in, which is the NHS, fuck that system. Let's go to a system where you, as an individual, okay, let's say they don't use our tax, and you're just capable of paying a private company to look after your mum or whoever, dad, it doesn't matter who it is, somebody in your family, and you have to look after them. They want you to go to a private company, and the private companies are going to offer you a cheaper price than the competitive company that's out there, because the free market is the best way to lower prices. Does that seem fucking even remotely the state of affairs we find ourselves in at this point? Does it really? Have you seen the local prices for everything? That's not how business operates. A business is there to make a profit. In case you're missing the fucking point of why businesses are businesses. A tax is a fucking thing that requires, first of all, people to be aware of the policy, which is fucking helpful to begin with. And second of all, a good policy where people feel comfortable saying, yes, I think this policy is going to work, first of all, which would be fucking handy. And second of all, I'm willing to offer my tax. Willingly. Because tax, even though a lot of people think tax is some like enforced thing, most people will agree that taxation is a good idea. Which, by the way, is socialism, in case no one's fucking paying attention. Because if we lived in a complete capitalist society, we wouldn't have a thing called taxation at all. Everything would be voluntary. And I do mean fucking everything. And that's not the way the system works. So when people banter about the word fucking socialism, give your head a wobble.
Communities and families more.
But Jeremy, aren't you giving local politicians in Birmingham a free pass here? Because they're the ones that have been overseeing what's gone on in Birmingham. They're the ones that oversaw the pay policy where women weren't paid as much as men. And I'm not blaming, I mean, they'll be blamed.
I am. I just said they're incompetent. Like, literally, they are. No two ways about it. I mean, otherwise, how did you miss that? Like, who forgot to go, we're supposed to pay Jenny the same amount as Mark. Mark and Jenny just came up to and made a complaint. Mark is 21 grand a year. Jenny's only getting 19. Why is that? No. Someone should get the sack. Oops. Someone should definitely get the sack.
Both parties here, because Birmingham is a city that's sort of swung one way or the other. But you can't just sort of say, well, it's entirely down to austerity and the amount of money, because other cities in this country, Manchester, Leeds, Newcastle, they're not in this situation.
They could be in the future.
They could be.
I mean, it's. I think the point that Sarah was making and you were making earlier, Birmingham is the first very big one to get into this situation.
Yeah, but they're the only ones that didn't do the equal pay, and this is the point that I was just trying to make before. This is incompetence, but in the same kind of notion is, yes, I mean, even Ian Dale said it himself, 40% cuts in local budgets, right? That's going to affect every council in the country, Tory, Lib Dem, or Labour, right? It just is. So I think Jeremy Corbyn's barking up the wrong tree when he's trying to defend Birmingham Council for being incompetent. But also, Ian Dale is correct in saying, you've been fucking shafted by austerity under the Tories, which is true.
But I talk to local councils in my area, and they've managed to maintain services. They've done, my council Islington has done extremely well. But nevertheless, they are grappling all the time with this massive loss of central government income.
Yeah, but that's not the point of the question. Why Birmingham is literally bankrupt. That's not the point. Like, as I just said, local councils are struggling with not enough funding. That's true. But that's from central government, as you acknowledge yourself. And second of all, the incompetence is a completely different story. How did they not think that should have been dealt with? Fuck knows when. Like, how? I don't know any other council that's gone bankrupt because they did something that was correct, like literally correct, equal pay, and then went broke. I don't know any other council that's done that. Birmingham is the only one. Literally. So it's their administration that should get fucking fired, clearly. Or someone was keeping that extra money. Maybe. I mean, let's be honest. Corruption does happen. Did they pocket that extra money? Like, what did they do with that money that should have been allocated to the people who should have got paid? Or should have paid Jenny, an extra £2 an hour, right? Where did that money go then? Like, when did this begin, is what I want to know. When did they realise that they should have been paying equal pay? It's weird, because no one's actually told me that, and I can't find it anywhere.
Which they cannot make up with local taxation income. It simply isn't there. They're not allowed to do it. They're limited in what they can do. And so are we just to preside over the diminution of local government? Now, yes, of course, inquire into what happened in Birmingham. Of course, where those that have made bad decisions are responsible, obviously hold them to account. But remember, the people of Birmingham deserve decent housing and decent services.
Everybody, not just people in Birmingham, everybody deserves. That's why we pay tax. It shouldn't be us versus them when it comes to politics. And this is the point that I hate about politicians in terms of, like, fucking groupthink shit, which is annoying. Everybody who pays their tax should have good healthcare, good childcare, and all the rest of it, right? Schools, right? It should be a fucking... If we're all paying tax, we should all get the same level of service. We shouldn't get, like, hodgepodge bullshit. We just shouldn't. Why are you collecting tax if we're getting shafted? It's ridiculous.
Just like everybody else does.
Right, we'll move on to other subjects in just a moment with Jeremy Corbyn, Danny Kruger, Professor Mona Siddiqui and Sarah Southern. It's 8:31 on LBC. Let's get...
It's fucking not. It's like 10 o'clock. I've been gone for ages. I've been gone for yonks. Cry me a river.
The news headlines with Tim Dave.
Breaking news, the Tories is shit. Dun, dun, dun. There you go. There's the news headlines. Another Tory minister is a complete useless cunt. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, thanks for watching, tuning in. It died.
4850.
No, it didn't. I thought it's like, where's your... Someone didn't switch on DVR. Twat.
We have with us Sarah Southern, former advisor to David Cameron, political commentator and comedian.
Oh, that's why she was saying austerity didn't work. That's why she was backing. I was like, who's this ginger cunt? Oh, David Cameron's former advisor. And you wonder why she was like, oh, no, it wasn't austerity that ruined the country. Wink, wink. I was the person who advised them to fuck it up in the first place. Oh my god. You might as well have Liz Trust fucking advisor on. Some fucking dirty yank. we should borrow money from the priest. Shut up, pricks.
But you were missed at the fringe
Dun, dun, dun.
this year,
No
Sarah.
fringe for me this.
Ian Dale away from this trust flags. Remember the good old days when Ian was saying, "Oh, fuck Rishi Sunak." I'm not even allowed to say the N word because it's a joke. But being black, I should be able to say it. But whatever. Anywho, just be polite. Ian Dale saying we don't want him. He's black. Give this just a chance. Soon was crying in his fucking little stupid fat hands, wasn't he? Fucking gobshite.
No.
Ian Dale, the Tory fucking flagman. It's better than that Nigel fucking other cunt. I forgot his fucking name. Fat woman with the white hair.
See you there next year. And Mona Siddiqui is a professor of Islamic and interreligious studies at the University of Edinburgh, but disgracefully told me earlier that she doesn't come to the fringe.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't.
Well-kept
You
secret.
don't. Oh, well, it isn't anymore. You don't know what you're missing out on.
No, that's true.
You could have
I'm
come and
missing
seen
out on
Jeremy and I
hordes of
performing on
people.
stage.
That's exactly why I don't go to the fringe.
Just that alone put you off, did it work?
And Jeremy Corbyn is here. He's got a book of poetry coming out. Is it in November?
Oh, Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, yeah, whatever.
It's being printed at the moment, so it'll be
Right. So
fully published in November.
a joint book with Len McCluskey,
Yeah.
which we talked about at the Edinburgh Fringe, and we'll have you back to talk about your
Poetry for the many.
Poetry for the many. Danny Kruger has written a book not about poetry. It's called Covenant. It's out. I think it's out now, isn't it?
God, that sounds like some fucking Bible I never want to read.
It's out on Thursday this week. Yeah.
What's it about?
Well, it's quite a philosophical book, but it has some policy suggestions in it as well. I'm trying to reach
Yeah, like stop the boats. It's got some policy. Stop the boats. Fuck off. It's going to crusade.
back into what I think of as the eternal truths of conservatism, which is
The eternal truths of conservatism. That is basically gobbledygook for I'm a right-wing Christian fucking lubtard. / I love money. The fact that he put that in a sentence is fucking radical in and of itself. I mean, I listen to a lot of American politics, as you well know. The difference between right-wing Christian bashers and the right-wing Christian bashers in England is so fucking funny. But they both talk the exact same shit. So I love English. You can say a completely different sentence. I mean, the exact same bullshit in English as an American politician who's a right-wing Republican, which he clearly is.
where I think we need to look for the future. But it's also recognising,
Yeah, free the fucking Crusades.
as I was saying earlier in the programme, Ian, that there's so much change has happened just in this century that we really need.
What, in this century? But like the fact that we don't fucking ride on horses anymore. Well, let's go back to pre-industrial revolution times. What are you on about? I want to hear this. Come on, bro.
To rethink, I think, recent conservative doctrine and move beyond what I think of as a very tired idea that all conservatism stands for is individual personal freedom.
Oh, okay. What does it stand for then? So, what? So what does it stand for?
Liberation from constraint of others. And of course that's essential. We do need to be free. But more profoundly than that, or in addition to that, we need to belong. And what are the conditions of belonging? Well, they're strong families.
Oh, here we go. Religious nutcase. We all need to ban abortion. Ban abortion. Keep women in the kitchen. Fuck them. Put them in the kitchen. Men's are women's and women's are men. Not happening, even though it is happening. It's just, can you get the fuck out of the 15th century already? He sounds like the most feeble terrorist I've ever come across in my fucking life. What a shithole.
Strong neighbourhoods and they're strong nations. I think these sort of associations that give us identity and meaning also make us safer and happier and actually...
Yeah, did you see what happened when the Queen died? I'm just saying, like, I'm not a royalist in any stretch of the imagination. But fucking hell, I did love our Queen. Just saying. Not a fan of Charles and his motley crew, to be quite fair. But I do love our history in terms of how mad it is. And people will say, well, Britain's had a bit of a mad history. Yeah, so has every other fucking country. Twat. Don't blame me. I wasn't there. But in terms of what you think we should go back to is just... I hate people like that. I really do. Like, let's go back when it was sunny uplands of the good old days. Let's make America great again. Sound like Donald fucking Trump. When was America great anyway? I mean, really? Last time I checked, it was just called America, not Great America. That's our title, Great Britain. We achieved shit. Just so you know. What has America ever achieved? Ever? Apart from landing on the moon, clearly. I mean, that is an achievement, no offense. But, other than landing on the moon and blowing up Japan twice with a nuke, what have they done? Terrible. All my American viewers are going to be like, we fucking hate you English. Yeah, we get it. You still speak English though, so we actually technically won. Twats.
Freer. And I think that conservatism is at its strongest when it recognises the importance of these associations. So I talk about the need to strengthen family life, strengthen the home, strengthen community life.
How do you strengthen the home? What does that even mean in the 21st century, strengthen the home? I'll give you a good idea how to strengthen the home. If people work less and get paid more, people will have more time to spend at home instead of slugging their bollocks off like slaves in the 21st century. That would be a more conducive way to, you know, cognify a home, right? I mean, let's face it. It was people like you who forced women to go to work because they had to. Not because, I mean, okay, this is going to sound very 18th century or some shit, right? But most women, like I said, this is going to sound, and this is my opinion, right? If you asked a woman, would you rather go to work? I don't mean permanently, right? I'm talking about like childbirth or whatever. Or would you rather stay home and be with your kid and be like the loving mother? Because we all know a mum and a dad spending time with their child when it's born, it's like the most vital part of a human's life, like growing up, like very small. Like, would you rather be able to do that, or would you rather, like they do in America, literally go to work the next fucking day, right? Do you know what I mean? So making people, force them to go to work because of capitalism, I don't think that's the best idea for a family, no matter what that family's makeup is, right? I'm not judging anybody at this point. I'm just saying, no matter what your little nest is, right? To force people to go to work because of pressures of capitalism doesn't seem like a coherent way to put the family back together. Because let's admit it, the family's being broken apart because of capitalism, because of the need to earn money. If you're literally in a couple in Great Britain, more than likely both the people have to go to work just to survive at this point. Just to survive. It's very rare you find a woman who's like, hippie-ki-yay, I can stay home with the fucking kids. Unless somebody, or a guy, maybe, it could be the other way around, or whatever. It's very rare that happens in today's society. Because no one earns enough money. Back in the day, it's very misogynistic, sexist sounding, but it's the facts. A man could earn enough money where the woman could afford to stay at home. Maybe she didn't want to, but she could afford to. Which is the difference.
And strengthen the nation. And for me, Brexit represented a great demand from the people for a stronger nation.
Yeah, a home is some place you visit just to sleep. I totally agree, Deuster. It's where people go to sleep. You probably spend more time at work, technically speaking, than you do in your own gaff. If you've got a job. And you probably spend more time with your colleagues than you do with your own family. Probably.
But I also think underneath it, what we all really want, Brexiteers or otherwise, are stronger communities and stronger families, and I've got a set of suggestions for that.
Which are what though? Like, what's your suggestions? Like putting on the front of fucking, I don't even know what right-wing newspaper to mention, there's that many of them. Stop the boats. It's not conducive, is it, to be fair? That's just literally saying them versus us. That's literally divisive. That's not building a better community. That's saying we're being invaded, like the Germans are coming to get us or some stupid shit when they're not. Like these people, even if you don't agree with the mad numbers, That's a drop in compared to how many people invade Spain and France every year. Like, it literally is. Like, the population of Britain is 67 million people. The reason why there's nowhere for them to go is not because they showed up. It's because our country fucking sucks a dick. And we don't build houses. That's all. Like, let that sink in.
Right, well,
We pay tax and no one builds houses. We give it to corporations to build private houses and then ask you to buy one when no one's got any fucking money. So then we say, well, we'll let you pay 10% of the house. People can't even afford 10% of the fucking house. That's what got us into the situation in the first place. Stupidly low fucking interest rates / free credit. And then as soon as the interest rates go up, you're fucking shafted and you can't afford it. And you have to move out and go live with your mum again or some shit. It's like people forget what happened in 2008. It was a mortgage crisis because of interest rates, you fucking idiot. They sold houses to people who couldn't literally fucking afford them. And you're doing the exact same thing by saying, we need affordable housing. No, we already paid tax. Build the fucking ones we already pay you for. They're called council houses, you fucktards.
a question on conservatism here from Frederick in Hastings, who says, Kemi Badenoch is now the most popular cabinet minister among Tory supporters.
Told you that. I've got my tenant on Kemi Badenoch being the next Tory leader. Fucking told ya. Told ya. Deputy Shadow Prime. Fuck God. So well a brave man. I told you it's going to be Jeremy Hunt. Jeremy Hunt's going to lose anyway. It's going to be Kemi Badenoch, Suella Braverman, Jeremy Hunt, guessing Michael Gove. What's the fucking name? God damn it. Can't remember her name. The one who's leader of the house. Penny Morton. There's five. They're my five candidates for the next Tory leadership contest. Kemi Badenoch is going to win. No kidding. Not kidding.
And even Suella Braverman is the 9th most popular from the list of 31. I'll just let that
No 30 Peely. 30 Peely's hilarious, bro.
sink in for a moment. Does this show the Tories are inevitably going back to true conservatism once Sunak is shown the door by the public? Now, that's the Conservative.
No, she's going back to Neil. Like, this is the thing. There's no such thing as a Tory. A proper one, anyway. You'd have to go back to you have to go to World War II to find a Tory and a Labour Party person. And that's not even a joke. Like, literally you have to go back to, like, World War fucking II to find an actual Tory or Conservative and an actual Labour person. Like Nye Bevan, for instance. Like, that's how long it's been since we've had any literal fucking ideological difference between those neoliberal fucktards who actually think they're actually on the left. I mean, just watch some of the commentary on the internet. The left eats the left and it's all crying about being on the left when even the left isn't the left nowadays. And the right, just like the right in America, extreme fucking weirdos. Like he's writing a book about a crusade of conservatism. Evangelical Christian, anyone? I'm just saying.
Home poll of Conservative Party members, Rishi Sunak has a negative rating, which is quite something for a leader to be in the negative territory.
No, it's not. They picked Liz Truss. I mean, I'm gonna be a shock. You didn't even want Rishi Sunak. I'm gonna give Rishi Sunak his due, which I'm trying not to vomit as I do this, but I'm gonna give him his due. Rishi Sunak, whatever his fucking name is, literally said, if you vote for this bitch, there's going to be a run on the pound. What happened next?
Penny Mordaunt and James Cleverly are the second and
Oh no, James Cleverly, fucking, I forgot about him, the little gerbil. I forgot about him, he's a fucking ass licker. Yep, him. Oh my god, I bet Grant Shapps is still there and gets a job doing something. He's a fucking ferret, that fella. I hate him. Grant Shapps is a fucking ferret. He's literally the head of the defence department. Grant Shapps. Can you imagine that? Grant Shapps is now the defence secretary. Oh my god. Dun dun dun. Breaking news. He's got another job, the ferret.
third most popular.
Cleverly needs to fuck off. Pronto.
Danny.
Well, I think we do need an authentic conservatism. I think the challenge is a legitimate one. I want to have it before the election.
We had an authentic conservative. Her name was Liz Truss. That didn't work out well now, did it? Nope.
not after. And I think that a lot of what Rishi stands for is right. He's actually so.
He is a ferret. He's a proper grifter. He's had 5 jobs in 1 year. It's like, what the fuck? 5 in 1 year? He's nearly had every position in the cabinet you can possibly give somebody. Like, literally. He was the environment minister the other week.
Actually conservative more
Now he's the fucking defence minister. Are you shitting?
than we've had in recent
He's a ferret. In fact, no, I don't even want to insult a ferret. He's a fucking weasel. There you go.
years from our leaders.
I like ferrets.
I think he believes he was a Brexiteer and he wants to restore the sort of the culture of our country. And I think
Who's a Brexiteer? I'm a Brexiteer. Doesn't mean I want my country to be blown up, you twat. I'm not Guy Fawkes. I voted for Brexit, and this is what I love about Tories. They think they're the only person who voted for Brexit. I know why I voted for Brexit, because I don't like fascism, right? A lot of people don't get that. Like, hold on, you support Labour and you voted for Brexit. Yeah, I did, and I can explain perfectly reasonably why when it comes to fascism. I'm not interested in your fucking waffle at this point, but I'm interested in the fact that you, first of all, shit all over Brexit and totally fucked it up. I don't even want to get into that. And you can't blame Brexit. I can blame you though. I definitely can blame you.
he's fighting well on a whole bunch of fronts. I think we do, though, need to recognise that the country hasn't yet had what it voted for in 2019, which was...
No, it hasn't. I totally agree with that. And whose fault is that, though? Whose fault is it that Brexit literally got pissed up a wall? The entire notion of it was pissed up a wall. It just was. It got spaffed like everything else you fucking not do. You spaff it up a wall. You twats. Useless fucking pissants that you are.
fundamental reset of the power relations in our country. They voted to take back control, not just from Brussels, but from London and from the political establishment. And
Says the people who prorogued Parliament. I mean, what crack is this guy smoking? Give me some of your crack. what crack are you smoking, homie? You prorogued Parliament, literally, and you voted for it, you twat.
I don't think we've yet delivered that. They voted for a reset in our economy to level up the country to...
No, we voted to leave the EU. Most people did, right? Because we never got the chance to say, nah, we don't like the entire flag shit or the national anthem. You need to understand one thing, historically speaking. First of all, acknowledge this as a fact. Great Britain is a xenophobic country. Not because we're inherently racist. It's because we are inherently better than the rest of our counterparts in Europe. All of these European countries have been somewhat fascist, shall we say, in the past. Or arselicks, right? I could name the countries if you want me to. But let's leave that aside. So, for years and years and years, and this is literally under Tony Blair, by the way. So for years and years and years, the politicians and the right-wing media in our country literally banged on about how Europe was shit. So that's going to be a point, right? And then they literally have the cheek to go, but we're going to stay. No, we're not. No. No. Anybody in their right mind knew the outcome of that election. Like anybody with a brain. Apparently Nigel Farage didn't get the fucking memo, and he was like one of the cheerleaders for the shit. Like, I was sat there going, this is funny as fuck. Like, wow, hilarious.
all parts of the country to generate opportunity for young people. And there's good reasons why we haven't been able to do that in the last few years. Other things have happened. It's also quite a short period to do it in, but I think we need to demonstrate change in those directions.
Yeah, what? 7 years? That's not a short period of time, you fucking wankers. Just isn't. All they have to do is not kowtow to the right wing of our country. Like, as someone who voted for Brexit, here's the funny part, right? I voted it. But the only reason why I voted is because these fucking clowns literally give us the opportunity to go, yeah, I want to leave the EU. Now, people can cry about all the shit that's... Okay, fine, right. Is Brexit perfect? No. But what I would say to that answer is, do you think being subservient to some bureaucratic bullshittery is a good idea also? And the only answer I get back as a rebuttal is money. I don't give a fuck. Money doesn't buy you liberty. It just doesn't. So, I mean, to be fair, I understand it's like a mad analogy. You can ask an American, would they rather be subservient to King fucking whoever it was, I think with King James or some shit, maybe King John, I don't know which twat it was at the time. Would you rather pay your taxes without representation, or would you rather just form your own little country? Pretty sure I know which ones the Americans chose, and it definitely wasn't suck my dick. So, I'm just saying. And like I said, if you've been spoon-fed right-wing bullshit since fucking the 70s/60s, how many people are bound to say, yeah, fuck the EU anyway? And if you read up on the EU as its creation and why it was created to counteract the United States after World War II by a bunch of fucking weirdos, you'd probably fucking be like, nah. I remember one time during the election, I got in a taxi with a friend of mine. I said, so what do you think about this whole Brexit shit? And he's like, oh, I'm voting to remain. I said, I'm voting to leave. And he's like, oh, why is that? He's like, we get all this money from the EU. And I was like, yeah, that's tax we give them that they give us back. I'm like, I don't see why, because our government's so incompetent, that we should pay somebody else to literally give it to poor regions of the country when we could probably do that ourselves. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like the whole rebate thing, like we put money in, they get money back. It's like, what is that? That's stupid. Like, I would have kept, and this is my own opinion, I would have kept free movements of people, because that doesn't bother me whatsoever. Like, literally. And I would have stayed in the single market. Like, them two things, I think, if we would have said, we'll do them two things, everything else would have been fine. Like, literally. Literally. But maybe they would have been like, his subjects. No. They knew what was at stake. And the deal that we got now is pretty weird anyway. I'm pretty sure we could have negotiated something better than what we got. Because leaving the EU, we were never in the EU proper. This is the thing. We already had the ACE card. We were never in the EU, and I mean money. That's the only thing that separated from the EU, was the power to print out our money, and we fucking spaffed it up a wall. Proper. That was the only thing we spaffed up the wall. The fact that we print our own money. I'm just saying, as someone who voted, like, I did troll. I'm not gonna lie, I did think it was funny to just do it anyway. But as someone who's objectively saying it, if I can put my ideology aside because of fascism or whatever, we had the upper hand. We had the aces, like all of them. All she had to do is just get a better deal like Thatcher did when she got the rebate. Like, for as much as you want to shit on Thatcher, and you know me, not a fucking fan of Thatcher, the rebate, all she had to do is say, you changed the right? No, these fucking nuts went full off the cliff mode. Are you mad? Why? And I'm guessing in the next 10 years, we'll be back in that shit. Like, literally. I'm just saying. I think we're going to renegotiate and go back. The free movement of people was never an issue. This is the point. I don't think it was. People bang on about it, but it wasn't. We got more people coming to our country illegally than we ever had with fucking free movements of people. At least we knew the fucking way when they came here for fucking free. Get me point? So that never bothered me whatsoever. And that problem, free movements of people, it's got nothing to do with the countries. That's the EU being fucking whores to capitalism. Because that means you can exploit capitalism. Labour markets, right? When you got free movements of people, that's an exploitative labour. And therefore, what we should have done is uniformly made corporations pay taxes in every country for the labour that they're fucking employing. But that doesn't happen in the EU. Now, whether that would have happened or not, because it's a lot of fucking countries, don't know. But I'm pretty sure we would have got a better deal. Kept the best parts in terms of I would have stayed in the single market and I would have kept free movement of people. But I definitely would have fucking said, you can fuck the rest. In terms of fucking national anthem and all that shit, no, not a chance. And we'll keep our rebate, thank you very much. But we're not paying you. But we'll have a free trade deal. But we ain't paying into the EU budget no more. Like they would have been like, okay, that's basically a free trade agreement and the free movement for people. That would be logical, right? We would never have any issues with Northern Ireland because it'd be in the fucking single market, and so would we. But that's trade. That'd be like the shit that we signed up for, ECC or whatever the fuck it was called in the first place. It's a bit weird. It's hard to explain because it's such a clusterfuck anyway. Oh, it's a bit mad. I need to go to the shop before it shuts because I need more beer. Like, seriously. What I'll do is, I'll leave this to play and go to the shop and then hopefully it'll still be when I get back. I'm just saying, if it goes off, I'm sorry, but it went off. But I'll try. The shop's only 5 minutes away. I'm pretty sure I'll be back within 5 minutes. But anyway, I'll just let you watch the show without me waffling. There you go. Not bad, eh? Even Stevens and all that. But I definitely need to go shop and get fucking beer. So it won't be long. Before it shuts, it's 5 minutes away. It's half 10. It's just 11. So I need to Scooby-Doo.
Fundamentally, in order to win the election, we need to repeat the trick that Boris pulled off, which was to connect traditional places like mine in Wiltshire, traditional Tory base, with those voters in the north and the Midlands and elsewhere who have small c conservative instincts, patriotic people, family-minded, community-minded people, and who recognised in Boris somebody who was going to deliver change. Unfortunately, he didn't. And I think as a party we've let the country down, and we need to restore their trust in us by delivering and setting a really strong course of change of direction over the next year.
And if you were voting in that poll, which cabinet minister would you vote as your
Well, I
top
voted.
performer?
You mentioned Kemi and Suella. I voted for both of them in the last leadership election.
Did you?
So, but listen, we're not. And
You quite surprised me by that, actually.
do I, Ian?
Yeah.
Who would you put me down?
I would have thought you would have voted for somebody, how can I put this charitably, more thoughtful.
I think they're both very thoughtful, and Ian, more profoundly, listen, all of the candidates, all good in their different ways. I think what we saw from both of those was candidates who would speak for the values and the interests of the British people, and particularly those people who put us into power in 2019. Something profound happened in 2016 and then again in 2019. Politics changed absolutely in this country. It's a recognition of long-term changes, but that was the political moment, and we need to deliver on that change.
Can I just challenge Danny on something? You talk about take back control, and these are the values of the British people. I want to know how, years after the Brexit vote, what we mean by take back control, and why has it been so difficult to take back control?
Well, it's been difficult because I think we went about it in the wrong way in 2016.
But what does it actually mean? I never knew what it meant.
I'm sorry that you struggled to understand what it meant.
Well, I think most people do.
Well, I'm not sure they did, actually. I think people instinctively knew what they were talking about. It was about restoring sovereignty over our borders, our laws, our money.
Which we had.
From Brussels. Well, we can refight that battle, if you like. I think we'll always win it, frankly, because if you ask people, do you want to be controlled by a government based in another country, which you do not elect and which takes decisions behind closed doors that you have no power
we have in
over.
this country as well.
Yes, but we have something of a democracy.
We have the House of Lords as well.
Okay, so
We're not the government.
we could obviously do
But I
more.
suppose it's a wider question, because you talked very passionately about the book, The Covenant, and I agree with you about community and strengthening communities. I'm just still curious as to, is confidence in the Tory party going down because people have not been able to deliver on Brexit? Or is it simply because actually people want a different kind of vision for what community looks like, what a nation looks like, and all the kind of sound bites of take back control, etc., really couldn't be delivered because it is very difficult to deliver on those.
It is, and I think, the conversation earlier about, it sounds technical and secondary, but this business about the local government finance and concrete, fundamentally who's making decisions in our country? The Grenfell disaster was because the power that community had, well, they didn't have the power, did they? Decisions were being made remotely behind closed doors in ways that disenfranchised the community. That's the outrage of so many things that go wrong in our country, large and small. And what people really want is agency. They want a sense that they can control the circumstances of their lives, locally and nationally. So Brexit was a great cry genuinely for control, but I think it was about community, and it was about having a sense of our nation as not just being some part of some sort of amorphous global partnership, but being something distinct and something real that people can have attachment to. And that's what our voters stand for and our voters want. That's what they voted for in 2019. Starmer's offering just a reheat of Blairism, of kind of vague internationalisms and progressive values, and some sort of sound bites about fairness. Actually, what people want, I think, is meaning and the opportunity to contribute and to be part of a proper community.
Jeremy.
Well, we have a country with 500,000 children living in desperate poverty in primary schools. We have housing waiting lists like you've never seen before.
You're being Mr. Misery Guts again.
Yeah, I'm being Mr. Misery Guts because that is the reality of many people's lives. And young people who go to university left with massive debts which hang around their necks for decades and decades to come. And so what hope are we actually offering to the young generation? And that's the whole point.
Can I steer you back to the question, though?
Yeah, you can. What was the question?
Kemi Badenoch and Suella Braverman, they're very popular among Conservative Party members. Does that mean the Tories are inevitably going back to true conservatism once Sunak is shown the door?
Well, I'm not rightly sure what true conservatism is, unless it's sharp elbows Margaret Thatcher style, which led to huge differences of living standards and income in our society and a fundamental philosophical change. I mean, Thatcher was very clever, for sure. I think her legacy is terrible. But, there has to be political alternatives. And if the Conservative Party is to go in that direction of individualism rather than community, which I'm not quite sure Danny would actually go along with that, then surely it is up to the Labour Party to move much more in the humanitarian direction of saying, well, the buy-in here is we will have a National Health Service free at the point of need. We will have social care available for all, again, free at the point of need, and we'll have an education service where we don't penalise young people for wanting to study. I mean, it's ludicrous, the debts we're imposing on those people.
Introduced
and a housing
by
system,
the Labour Party, which
indeed,
you supported
I
at
must
the time.
say, I'm sure you've checked this out, I have never voted for student fees at any time. I voted against...
No, I meant you supported the Labour Party, not that particular policy.
Of course, but I did. I said at the time, when the whips came to me at that time and said, it's only £1,000 a year, nobody's going to notice it. I said, you're crossing a Rubicon here. You're crossing a Rubicon. Don't do it. Because once you've taken away the principle of free education, from which we all benefit, if a young person becomes a doctor, we all benefit because of that. If they can't afford to become a doctor, we don't have a doctor.
Is there any of the 31 Tory cabinet ministers that you look at and you think, actually, I think you've got the right intentions, you're doing a good job?
That's a hard one. I mean, not really, but I have quite interesting conversations with quite a lot of them at various times, sometimes about individual issues. I'm going to talk to Michael Gove about the endless problems of cladding, and he gives me wonderful, very warm words answers. They're brilliant, and he's great at the warm words answers. The problem is, it don't deliver a policy.
Well, maybe Angela Rayner can bring that about for you now that she's shadowing him.
Well, I will talk to Angela about the whole issue of... this issue of cladding on private sector developments...
Let's not get started on that, because we're running out of time. We haven't heard from Sarah yet.
I'm not surprised that that's the outcome of the Conservative home poll at all. But, it is a broad church in the Conservative Party. And certainly, what Danny's doing with, the New Conservatives and putting forward what he thinks, I respect hugely. But I kind of would rather that you wait until after the election before we start fracturing the Conservative Party more. Because I think there will be, if the general election goes as we expect, there will be a time of renewal within the party, because there will be a huge loss of talent from the benches. There will be new ideas coming in. There will be new leaders. And I think, it will be a little bit like it was kind of post-97, where...
They need a new generation, Sarah. You should be part of it.
You're all right. No, thank you.
So, of the 31 Conservative cabinet ministers, which do you look at? You think, you are performing well?
Alex Chalk. He would be my number one.
Well, he was the one that went out to defend Lee Anderson's F off back to France comments, of course.
I think Alex Chalk is a really, really impressive person and impressive politician. And then I would also put Penny Mordaunt and James Cleverly. They would be on my list.
Okay. Right, more questions to come, including a very to the point final text question, our fun text question. It's 8:47.
LBC. Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Stuart, now Lord Rose, the last man to run Marks and Spencer's when it made profit in the area of £1 billion. He now chairs Asda. We're probably looking to Labour victory. Is that good for business?
I'm a Conservative. We've had a disastrous time with one pretty lacklustre Prime Minister, two disastrous Prime Ministers, and we've now got a very capable Prime Minister in place who has been dealt a worst hand of cards you could possibly imagine. When people come to the ballot box, think carefully about, what's on offer.
It's a year today since Liz Truss took over as leader of the Conservative Party. How much damage did Liz Truss do to the country?
Immeasurable.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Back tomorrow morning from 7. Listen on your radio and on Global Player. LBC.
It's from Ben in Clacton. Hello, Ben. Ben,
Hello,
are you
Ian,
there?
and
Hi.
good evening, panel. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is, does the panel agree with Jamie Oliver, as I do, that we should have universal school meals for every child in the country that goes to school?
So I always have a problem with a question that starts with, does the panel agree with Jamie Oliver? Because my natural reaction is no. Sarah Southern.
Last time Jamie Oliver tried tinkering with school meals, I don't think it went down particularly well, did it? You know, when you had a picture of Charles Clarke eating one of those turkey Twizzlers when he was trying to say to him, look how disgusting the food is. I completely agree that kids who need support should get free school meals. I don't necessarily think all kids should get school meals. If your family can pay for them, I think you should be. I don't. We should be funding kids in private schools to have free school meals, or kids in well-off areas to have free school meals, but those who need it absolutely should. And of course, the food that's provided in schools should be more nutritional.
I mean, I don't know, Danny, if you have any insight into this, but I don't detect any great groundswell of people saying the system doesn't work at the moment, that too few kids are getting free school meals.
No, but I do get a lot locally of complaints about the quality of school food and, frankly, the tiny budget that's available per child. So I do think we need to do something about it. But we should be sourcing food locally. We should be improving nutrition. We should be improving education around cooking. This is crucial to the challenge that we have from obesity in this country. As well as poverty. So I think it's a legitimate argument, but I agree with Sarah that I don't think, nationalising everything, getting the taxpayer to pay for everything, standardising and centralising is not the answer. And we need to empower schools to source their food. locally and teach kids and families, of course, as well as schools staff themselves, how to cook well.
Jeremy?
We've had free school meals in all our primary schools in my borough since 2010, and we do it because we believe that it ensures all children get a decent meal, ensures they all eat it together, and that's an important part of growing up. And if you restrict it to those on universal credit or any other form of benefit, then you cross a line.
Forgot to turn my fucking mic on. Gobshite.
Where low-income working parents have to pay for the lunch.
I just missed me up a waffle.
Their income as a level might be almost exactly the same as somebody on benefits who gets a free school meal. It becomes very divisive. I think it should be universal. Across London, it is now universal primary schools. I think the whole thing of children actually having their lunch together is an important one. And in one of our schools, they've done a really good thing. They cook the food on site, obviously, and they employ the staff directly to provide the food. And the chef is also a teacher. So teaches the children about cooking and nutrition at the same time. So the kids then become part of the whole process, that the school meal function is part of
Get the kids
life.
to cook the meals.
Well, you're into child labour now.
I mean, it's good. To be fair, that's a good. I mean, I would help them, right? But I think that's a great idea. The chef is the teacher. I think it's a fucking great idea. Like an hour is, I think. Kids are going to hate this. Well, I would if you told me when I was about that age. I think the school day should be longer. I don't know why people wait from 9 to 5 and have to pick up their kids at 3. It makes no sense. Kids should be at school from 8 in the morning till 5 o'clock. Stretch it out. Make it more of a social place to be instead of a factory. If you made lessons that are a bit more chilled, stretch them out. Like stretch out art, stretch out music, stretch out the lessons. Or maybe stretch out math, so maybe kids who don't understand math, they don't have to panic because they've only got half an hour. You know what I mean? You can stretch out the day more. Parents would love that because they're like, well, I finished work and I pick up the kids. No reason for a child, man. Why can't we extend the day for kids to be at school? I mean, that'd be a fucking good idea.
But children be...
Fucking kids are going to hate it probably, unless you make it enjoyable, clearly, like I said. Or make the time off with the kids 2 hours for lunch, where they can, like you said, learn how to cook maybe. I know it's going to sound a bit mad, but you get the point, right? I'd extend the day. Maybe 9 till 5 instead of 8. But, you know, you get the point. Just stretch it out an extra 2 hours. No problem.
Involved in it is great, and also whilst the space is quite limited in other of our schools, they've got fortunately quite a nice school garden. They produce some food which ends up being the kids eat for their lunches. Now, you're never going to produce enough for all food, but I do think it's important. Now, come on, your constituency, Danny, there's loads of space there. You could have enough vegetables to feed the whole school.
Yeah, we should have more local. We should
Absolutely, local production, and also children understanding how vegetables are produced, how food is produced. That's an important part of it.
Agree.
Mona?
I think as a point of principle, I would agree. I think you can't expect children to study or learn anything if they're hungry. And I'm slightly reticent about how you divide children who can afford and who can't afford, because I think we're going into very murky territory there. You know, when we've been hearing that teachers are having to bring in food as well as other things to feed children, or children are coming in with dirty clothes or they're unwashed and teachers are having to help out, often from their own pockets, I think we are in a bit of a crisis. And irrespective
A bit of a crisis, fucking hell. What would it take for us to be in a fucking crisis?
of how we teach them how to grow food or think of food, I think that if we can't even give them a square meal so that they can learn and they can study and they can have a vision for their future, it says something about the kind of society we become.
Now,
We
Stephen
don't
Holloway
need
has a
no
question. It's only directed at you, Jeremy, I'm afraid. You can probably guess what it is, can't you? Would Jeremy like to announce tonight on this programme that he'll be standing at the next election?
I'd love to announce I'm happy to be the MP for Islington North, and Steve, I'm still around.
Because you did more than hint in Edinburgh at the show that you did with me that you might be considering standing for Mayor of London. Would you like to expand on that?
I'm considering many things, but I'm very proud and very happy to continue being the MP for Islington North, and I look forward to continuing to represent Steve.
Such a politician's answer.
Absolutely.
But when
I'm
do
sure
you,
you're pleased with the answer.
when do you? No, I'd quite like you to make an actual announcement. When will you make a decision, though, on your future?
I'll let you know.
Exclusively on this programme.
I'll let you know.
You just want the glory, don't you?
Always, Mona.
You want to be the one.
You've caught on very well. This is your first appearance, but you've caught on very well, if I may say so.
Steve, thanks for his question. I love representing that community. I have done for 40 years, and I think particularly the Labour Party members in Islington North ought to have a democratic right to choose who their candidate should be, and we shouldn't have people imposed.
That's very clear. Right, final main question. This is from Liam in Cockfosters, who says, is a wealth tax the right way to tackle inequality in this country? Now, Rachel Reeves, who's going to be on the programme tomorrow for an hour taking calls at 7, she's Labour Shadow Chancellor, she's ruled it out. Michael Gove hinted the other day in a podcast that he might support the idea.
Look at that. What the actual fuck?
Sarah Southern, and if you can all be quite brief with your answers on this.
No, I don't support a wealth tax. I do agree that everybody should be taxed a fair amount, but I don't believe that we should have a wealth tax. I don't think that's the...
So then explain how you're going to tax people. Unless you're going to put up the highest rate, then what are you going to do? Because you're going to have to change tax brackets and all that bullshit. And the vast majority of wealth in the country is wealth, not tax. Like, this is one correct statement. You can't tax the rich into oblivion in terms of income tax. Because that's regressive when it comes to if you want to keep the rich around. But you can tax their wealth, which they don't mind because they're still rich. That's the point. Taxing their wealth is definitely a good idea. Because they'll make more on the interest that they've already got anyway.
Answer to it.
Twat.
Our problems.
You used to advise David Cameron. That didn't end fucking well, did it?
Mona?
I agree with Sarah. I think that the way to make democracy work is not to say that there has to be equality. We can't have equality in any society.
Okay, I'm going for a piss. I'm going to let that sink in while I take a piss. There can't be any equality in any society. Well, there goes my big fucking dream then. Let's teach that to kids. There's no equality. Let's teach that to kids, even though we've got an Equalities Act. Well, fuck that then. Why should we pay women the same amount of fucking money as men? Why bother?
But you have to give people enough sense of having a stake in society, that what they say matters, that they're valued. And that's not just about funding.
Well, what's the point if there's no equal society? It kind of defeats the fucking point, doesn't it? Or defeats the point, I should say.
And money.
Jeremy?
I support a wealth tax, and if we increase tax to the top 1% of earners to the 50% rate, that would bring in £5 billion alone, which is rather more than it would cost to restore the two-child policy.
In terms of a
To
wealth
abolish
tax,
the two-child
though, I mean, that phrase means different things to different people.
Yes.
At what level would you introduce it?
Well, I think you go for, if you do it on wealth, you do it on wealth over £10 million, for example. So you're not hitting somebody who happens to live in a house that's worth around £1 million, which in London and the South East is not that unusual. I think if you go for people with a substantial amount of wealth and tax them on it, what is wrong with that? And I remember talking to the CBI about this. I was trying to persuade them what a good idea it would be to increase taxation. And they were all staring at me, lots of them. And then the point I just made was that, OK, I get you don't want to increase tax. I get you don't want to pay any more tax. But are you happy walking past rough sleepers when you go to your office on a Monday morning? Just ask yourself that question. What kind of society do you want to live in?
Danny.
So I would like to see taxes come down overall, taxes on income, taxes on VAT, taxes on businesses. That said, I do see the argument for a wealth tax. All of the money that was printed by the Bank of England over the last 15 years, a lot of that has flowed into assets, into wealth.
I see, it's so mad. So, like, it's the fact that he's like, all the, like, he's just said it. I can't say it any better than he's just pointed out. All the money we printed went to the very people who were already stupidly fucking rich. You could have just printed that money and just give everybody checks. I mean, that's probably a bad idea, clearly. But it would have stimulated the economy a lot more than giving it to people who don't spend it. Rich people don't spend money. It's like, if you're rich, you can't buy 10 pairs of jeans and make up for the amount of people who would normally buy 10 pairs of jeans in terms of people. It just makes no sense.
Including into property.
And it just sits there and does nothing. It's literally, it's untaxed assets that it doesn't do anything. It doesn't provide any income. It's just on a balance sheet. And even rich people know that. They're just like, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't make me any money. It's an asset, yeah, but it doesn't make them money. It just sits there. It can make money over time if house prices go up. But that's about it. That's speculation anyway. Because if the house market dies on its ass, which it technically has, then the house prices go down. So you lose money. Depends how much you pay for it in the beginning, but you get the point.
Great property bubble. I think there is an argument, as Jeremy says, for putting some sort of wealth tax on the very rich, but it's not sufficient, and it's not the answer.
It's not sufficient, but it's a good start. That's the point. It's not supposed, like, taxing the rich is not supposed to be a golden bullet. Like, oh, tax the rich, therefore, the sun is shining. No, but it's to say, like, the people who've got so much money, which is unbelievably way more than everybody else, are contributing, which will take away some of the sting out of this toxic society we live in anyway, where every rich person is thrown under the bus regardless. You've got rich people who do a lot of good shit for charities, whatever, who get thrown under the bus with the people who don't do fuck all with it, who just, like, hoard, right? And even the people who are rich are like, could you probably tax me a bit more? I'm not going to miss it. Warren Buffett, one of the richest men on the planet, says, I'm willing to pay more tax. Did the United States say, we'll take you up on that offer? No, they fucking didn't. So let's not beat around the bush here. And it's the government's job to look after the people, not corporations. You fucking idiots.
Third, fundamentally, we need growth, and the danger of driving on.
No, it's not. The danger is that you literally have corporations who are like nation states, and then you can't do anything because you're so shit scared of them that you have to go begging to them like an Amazon worker to go and take a piss. That they don't care at that point. Your government is to regulate the market, not be subjected to it, you fucking crackhead. That's your job. Regulate the market. Keep it in check. Not to pander to it. You wrote the rules, not the corporations, you dickhead.
Entrepreneurs and the wealthy out of this country, or disincentivising them from growing their businesses, is a big one. But I do think there is.
I don't think anybody's going to miss Bob Geldof if he fucked off. You get the point. Like, there was a hoo-ha, like everyone's going to fuck off because people wanted to put up taxes on the rich. Well, let them, because it just shows the calibre of people that are going to leave and not pay taxes. Fuck them, they're just greedy cunts then, innit? name and shame them. Like all the bastards who don't pay taxes anyway. Fuck them.
There's an argument for saying that some of the unearned windfall that property owners and asset owners have earned over the last 15 years because of Bank of England.
No, it's because you ran the country like a casino. Don't start saying the Bank of England. The Bank of England's independent. Remember? So don't start blaming the Bank of England, you fucking weasel.
Money printing.
Money printing? You didn't care when they were printing money to save the banks, did you? No. Did you complain then? Did you complain when the fucking bank made the taxpayer fucking pay for the fucking banks who should have went bankrupt? Didn't see you complaining then? No. But when the very taxpayer who makes the Bank of England the very fucking thing it is gets shafted, oh, we can't help the poor people. Oh no, you gotta pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Twats. I fucking hate Tory. Your fucking logic's broken. You agree that we should tax the rich. Fucking congratulations.
Should possibly be taken back by the taxpayer.
Yeah, because we're the ones who fucking give them their fucking money, you twats. What do you think we do when we go to shop and buy products? I don't know. Buy their fucking goods. Your job is to tax them correctly on the shit that we buy. As a proportion. I don't think Amazon pays more tax than I do. I'm pretty sure on that, considering they paid fucking zero tax. Point out the fucking obvious here. Like, the amount of giant corporations in our country that don't pay tax, that actually, which is disgusting, get rebates from the government. Like, you know, the people who put shit in our rivers got paid taxpayers' money as a rebate, paid zero in tax as a private corporation, put shit in our rivers, and then got a rebate from the government. I don't know what you would call that. It's not irony, because irony is supposed to be funny in some dark comedy. That's not funny. That's more like a piss take. Literally a piss take.
Somebody says here, can Jeremy Corbyn be on the cross-question panel every night? He is brilliant. The answer is no. I think.
Well, to be fair, Jeremy Corbyn's brilliant because he's not the Labour leader. That's the problem. And he was never a good Labour leader, and this is the reason why. He's too nice. In order to be a good politician, you need to be ruthless. Especially with our media. And he's to the left. Like I said before, if you watched on my previous channel, which I used to have, I could literally show you. I don't even think it'd probably be on archived on BBC. I could probably find it, maybe. But there was a video when Jeremy Corbyn was literally running for the leader, to be Prime Minister. And Politics Live, literally, when Andrew Neil used to, that's how long ago it was. Politics Live did a survey in a Tory constituency of people who thought his policies were a good idea, but he didn't say who came up with the policy. They just said, what do you think of this policy idea? And people liked it. And then the second question is, after they voted that they said they liked it, they said, do you like Jeremy Corbyn? They all went no. Yet it was Jeremy Corbyn's policies that they all fucking liked, and they were all Tories. That's how the media gets you. And that's why he failed as a leader, because he was never equipped to be Prime Minister. He's a nice guy, I will accept that. Bit weird when it comes to Palestine shit, but that's whatever. I'm not religious, so I don't really fucking care. I'd bomb the Middle East. I would. Anyway, point being is, he would definitely not make a good leader, and he didn't. But it's his ideas in terms of what most Brits would agree with in terms of policies. Yes, even in Tory seats, and that's a fact, because I've actually sat down and fucking streamed it myself and watched it. Tories only got put off because it was Jeremy Corbyn, not the policies. And that's the way politics works in Britain. If you celebritise some shit, then you're more bound to vote against your own self-interest just because of stupid shit. Which, I mean, I learned that lesson when I did the whole election of the Red Wall, I predicted 6 months, 6 months on my previous channel, before the Red Wall ever fell apart. I predicted it would fall apart 6 months before. I even showed a fucking map. In my comment section, people were like, you're crazy, you're insane, never gonna happen. The only thing I got wrong is I didn't expect people who voted Labour to vote Tory. I thought they'd vote UKIP, and they didn't. They voted Tory, which was a shock to me. I thought they'd vote UKIP, but they didn't. They voted Tory, which was bizarre. I didn't expect that. But I did expect the collapse of the Red Wall. And the reason why is because if you looked at the previous election, which wasn't technically an election, it was a referendum on Brexit, where did most of the people vote? In terms of, like, up north, people think Labour are some, like, bunch of weird socialists. They might be. But there were definitely Brexit voters. I mean, Sunderland, for fuck's sake. You get the point anyway. So you should be very careful what you listen to and how the media narrate what you think the topics of the day are in Britain. Like the EU thing. Anybody with half a clue knew that was fucking gonna be a disaster. The fact that David Cameron thought he could ever win that election just shows you the calibre of politician we have in this country. Gullible, out of touch, beyond belief. And that's what we've been stuck with ever since. Out of touch politicians. And the ones that actually say shit that's competent, the fucking media just shuts them down and destroys them. Like the fact that she swore that Gillian Bird isn't the point. The fact is, she admitted that her government is sitting on its arse. No jokes. It is. But they're all focused on the fact that she swore. I mean, for fuck's sake, we live in England. Shakespeare swore. What's your problem? Anyway, I've been waffling for literally about fucking 3 hours over this one hour radio show. Now, this is not, I don't do this very often, to be fair. I never normally do an LBC live commentary. I thought because I'm so bored and I need to find something to fucking whinge about, I'd do LBC. I'm going to do it tomorrow, breaking news, because on the show tomorrow, apparently, we've got the shadow fucking chancellor, which is that lady. I forgot her name. But anyway, she's on tomorrow, so that's at 7. So you see me in the daytime, clearly, 11:15, Politics Live, until 1 o'clock, I think, for PMQs. And then I'll be back at 7 to do a live LBC commentary, over commentary. Like I said, if you want to watch the thing live, just watch it live. You don't need to listen to me waffle. But hopefully, Rachel Reeves is going to be on tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And we will talk about that, because she used to work for the Bank of England. So that should be fun. See what she's got to say anyway. But we'll leave this, or me waffling, and let's see what the end of the show says. But I'll be back tomorrow anyway, as usual.
I cannot.
You know what? It's nice to be back. Politics, fucking hell. Something fucking literally withdrawal symptoms.
Answer for you, Jeremy, on that.
I'll be silent on this one.
Right, final fun question from Matt in Brighton. Following Gillian Keegan's hot mic moment this week, if the panel could each add an F-bomb, we all know what we're talking about here, to one famous political speech, what would it be? Mona.
When Tony Blair said education, 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 add an F to that, because I think that's the state of our education today.
Wouldn't it? Yeah. Jeremy?
Yeah. When Margaret Thatcher put together her highly contrived ladies not for turning speech, I wonder what she really thought at the end of it. Because it was all so contrived and so put on.
You can't
great
really
programme by
imagine
Lucy
her
Worsley last night comparing Margaret Thatcher to Elizabeth I. It was brilliant.
Oh, I must watch that.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant.
I can't imagine her using that word, though, can you?
No, I can't at all. And I can't imagine any circumstances she would use any word like that.
Danny?
If the British Empire and its Commonwealth should last for 1,000 years, men will still say this was their finest effing hour. That's the spirit.
I knew he was going to say that. He's on a crusade. Brilliant.
They won the war.
Sarah.
And he probably did use a lot of bad language.
Bring down this effing wall.
Tear down this
effing wall.
I think, but surely the...
I would say for Tories, stop the fucking boats, probably. I'm pretty sure Suella Braverman was dreaming about saying stop the fucking boats, the cunt. I would just say, please shut the fuck up, Suella Braitman. Go away. Get back under the rock from which you fucking came from, you useless twat. You know what? I would love to send her on a fucking boat somewhere. But, you know, the only thing is, I wouldn't want to fucking terrify the people where she fucking landed. Poor bastards.
Winner would have to be, ask not what your effing country can do for you, ask what you can do for your effing country. On that note, thank you to you all, Jeremy Corbyn, Danny Kruger, Mona Siddiqui and Sarah Southern. Tomorrow on the panel, we have the Conservative Party Chairman Greg Hands, the Lib Dem Foreign Affairs spokesperson Layla Moran, the economist Grace Blakely and the Mail on Sunday columnist Dan Hodges. That should prove to be a fairly sparky one.
I think I've got a new thing to stream after my policy. I think I'm going to stream, but live commentary, LBC. Hopefully they won't copyright strike me. LBC, I do give you all the copyrights. I don't own this shit. If you want to watch the full thing, clearly go to their webpage and subscribe, obviously. But I do like these cross question things. I'm not a big fan of LBC. I shouldn't say that, should I? To be like, fuck you, copyright strike. But what I mean is, I'm glad they disabled the chat, because the amount of ass clowns in their chat is literally insane. So I'm glad they disabled that. So I'll give LBC a high five for that. Thank God they disabled the chat. It's the most racist, fucking weird chat ever. But anyway, thank you to LBC for allowing me to stream without literally copyright striking me when I'm streaming it. Thank you to Ian Dale and his guests. And yeah, I'll probably stream it tomorrow. Definitely the shadow economy lady. I can't remember her name. I just said it and I can't remember. Anyway, I've been streaming for like 10 hours. Not really, about 3. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow anyway. I hope you all have a lovely night. I can't sleep or do anything because it's fucking roasting. Like, literally, I'm going to have to find something else to fucking watch them. God damn it. Anyway, see you.